Hello, and welcome to episode 354 of Retro Encounter, RPG Fans' weekly podcast about many topics, usually of the retro variety, but not today. Today we're here to discuss Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It's our Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Spoilercast, where we are going to talk about all things Xenoblade Chronicles 3. We're going to spoil the bejesus out of it, so if you haven't played Xenoblade Chronicles 3, turn off this podcast right now. But before we get to that, I guess I should introduce myself. I am your host today, Zach Wilkerson. I am sorry that Mike Solosi is not here with us today, but he has not beaten the game yet. And let's talk about our panel, starting with first time Retro Encounter appearance, Gio Castillo.
Hi. Hello.
And another first time appearance, Izzy Parsons.
Hello.
And Tyler, who is our resident Xeno expert, Tyler Trosper.
Oh no. Hi.
Tyler, you literally have an entire podcast dedicated to it called Xeno Chat, so you are definitely the resident expert. All right. You have how many features do you have on the site for Xeno? Something? Two?
Like two? Yeah, I think about two features. Yeah,
and you also
maybe
work for
three.
Operation
I don't
Rainfall. I mean, that's like a big deal.
Yeah.
So thanks, Tyler, for letting us play this game. And
oh god.
As of the time of this recording, we also have the triumphant return to Retro Encounter of Alana Hagues.
Yeah, they needed a real life Xenoblade character for this, so
Oi.
You what?
Yes. Thank you for joining us, Alana. It's a delight to speak to you on the podcast, although I may speak to you all the time outside of this podcast. So one thing I want to make sure everybody's 100% clear on before they listen to this, we are certainly going to spoil Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but we're also at least going to have some thematic spoilers for other games in the Xeno, we'll call it meta series. I don't know. People on the internet get real mad, but no matter what you call it. We'll just call it the Xeno series. And so just be aware of that. If you are very leery of that, this might not be the podcast that you want to listen to. But before we get into Xenoblade Chronicles 3 proper, I want to kind of go through our history with the series in general, sort of our experiences with it, what we love about it, what we hate about it, mostly what we love about it, I hope. And we will start with you, Alana. What's your history with the Xeno series?
Oh gosh. I started probably pretty late, I would say. Not until Xenoblade. Xeno Saga Episode 2 was the first Xeno game to get released in Europe, and as a result I didn't play it because I was like, wait, episode 2? But it's kind of thematic, really, isn't it? Like, that's just Takahashi being Takahashi. He's just releasing things out of order and whatever. But no, so Xenoblade famously came to Europe before America, but I didn't play it until 2013, and pretty much immediately fell in love with it. And so Xeno was like, oh, I've got to play it all, but I had to wait for Cross or X, and then 2, I went back and played Xenogears as well. Generally absolutely adore what this series does. Xenogears for a long time has been my favorite Xeno game, and Xenoblade 3 was probably the most excited, my most anticipated game of this year, and I think mostly it's delivered, and I adore it. I love what these games do with themes, and they kind of just hit all the right notes for me. So yeah, it's been a hit and miss, choppy ride playing them all, and I will probably never play Xenosaga in any legal capacity because Bandai Namco can't do anything with it, but well, one day maybe. I'd love to play them.
It's hard for me to imagine Xenosaga 2 being anyone's introduction to this series. I have not played Xenosaga 2, but from everything I've heard about it, it seems like it would probably be a bad place to jump in. Yeah. Anyway, Izzy, what's your history with the Xeno series?
So I was pretty young when Xenogears came out, but I still rented it back then. And I just really wasn't prepared to beat it at that time. But what I did do was watch the intro movie 100, 200 times more, because that intro movie is sick.
It's back before every video game was doing anime intros too. So
yeah, totally.
It's super cool.
And then I did really get into Xenosaga though. Loved those games. Even 2, despite how some people feel about it. I love all 3. But then I went back and finished Xenogears when the PSP came out, around there when Xenogears was playable as a PlayStation Classic, which obviously great game. I don't think pretty much no one denies that that's a great game, so I'm not gonna espouse it too much, but very good game. Love Xenogears. And then Xenoblade. So I didn't play it when it first came out in North America, but for some reason my roommates and I in college decided we were all going to play it at the same time. Uh, so we all played like Xenogears in our own rooms, but like with our doors open and like yelling stuff across the hallway at each other.
I mean, there's already enough yelling in these games, so
so that was a really cool experience. Just like I've never played a game at the same time as like two other people in the same vicinity and like had discussions while playing it about like theories and lore and stuff. So that was really fun. And then Xeno Blade X was also a similar experience with my roommate. So we one of my roommates, the other roommate didn't have a Wii U, so it was just two of us. We bought it on launch day and just like set up in the living room with like two TVs and a whole bunch of snack food, and then just played for like 18-20 hours straight.
I want your friends. You have like the best IRL friends.
It was a good time. We're kind of, we don't see each other very much anymore, but that was good days. Xenoblade 2 played at my parents' house during the holidays. Great thing, great game. Maybe not my favorite in the series, but I still really like it. And then obviously, like Alana said, I was very excited for Xenoblade 3, most anticipated game of the year. Basically decided it was going to be my goatee before I even played it, and it lived up to it, so that's good.
Yeah, I am in a similar position, but I will talk about that later. Gio, let's talk about your history with the series.
Yeah, so I'd never played Xenogears. I'd never played Xenosaga. I started with Xenoblade on the 3DS, and I hated it. I didn't like it at all there. It was terrible. It's definitely like the worst way to play Xenoblade.
I can see that.
And yeah, and so trepidatiously I played Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and turns out I liked it a lot more. Like, um, despite some things about it, like you know, you know what, but uh, and then I I said, okay, well, I think I'm a fan now, and then I played Torna like a year later or something, and then that was even better. I love that game. Like, in terms of like the emotional story beats, I was like, wow, so Xenoblade is capable of this. And then uh, I was also anticipating 3. I don't think it was like my most anticipated game. I think I was kind of more excited for Elden Ring, but I think I ended up liking this one more than Elden Ring in the end. So yeah,
I mean, I certainly did, because I've played an hour of Elden Ring. I've died 12 times, and I'm done.
Basically, my experience with Elden Ring too.
Yeah, they're not for me. All right, so Tyler, your experience.
Okay. So I was weird and started with the Xenosaga series. Absolutely loved it. It was my first foray, so I think that might be why I have such a strong connection to that. Um, it's still like my favorite of all of Xeno. But after that, I went into Xenogears. Loved that too, and then went into the Xenoblade games. All the way back. Well, I remember first when I hear it was called Monado, Beginning of the World, and then the whole Operation Rainfall thing. But yeah, I played all the Xenoblade games. I really loved X, and I really, really wish they would make a sequel to that, or at least make mechs playable again. I want my mechs to be playable again.
Me too.
But yeah, I've been involved in different Xeno communities, forums, podcasts, and fan projects and all that stuff. So yeah, I kind of like this series, yeah, just a little bit.
That's going to be the understatement of the podcast. Like the moment I pitched this idea to Solosi, I messaged you basically immediately because I knew that you would be jumping on, and Izzy as well, because they had been on the random encounter episode that we recorded about it. Yeah. So in terms of my history with it, so I'm probably, I don't know, I maybe the oldest person on the podcast, which means that I played Xenogears when it came out. Now, granted, I wasn't that old. I was like 12, and I got to be honest with you. I thought I was really smart when I was 12. Turns out I wasn't. Like there are so many themes and ideas with Xenogears. Like I liked it, but I was like, huh, I don't really get this. That's the only time I've played Xenogears. I should play Xenogears again. I tried to a few years ago, but like, man, those cameras with those R and L, like, I just can't handle that anymore. Like, I'm just old. So after clearing Xenogears and not really understanding what I was playing, I kind of fell off the Xeno train for a while. I know when Xenosaga 1 came out, like, I was interested, but the knock on it at the time was it was like cutscene the game. And whether that's true or not, I will perhaps discover soon enough. But it just didn't, it wasn't a game that I picked up or played. And I didn't play a lot of RPGs for a while, sort of in my early 20s or even in my late 20s. And then in 2000, maybe 16 or 17, I picked up Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and I became obsessed. I cleared all the super bosses. I did all the things. I basically 100%ed it. I did all 534 or however many damn side quests there are in that game. And then I picked up Cross. I liked Cross for about 10 hours, but I was playing on a kind of a small TV. I'm not sure how many of you have played Cross, but the UI stuff at the bottom of the screen, I couldn't read it at all.
The
And so
text
I was like,
font is terrible in that
Yeah.
game. Like, it was such a big talking
Yeah.
point.
yeah. So I bought a new TV after I decided I wasn't going to do that because I tried to play Ni no Kuni 2 at the same time, and the UI text in that was also terribly small. So anyway, I have never beaten Cross, but you know, the 10-15 hours I played, I liked a lot. And then Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was a problem for me. I like it more than most. I've dumped about 300 hours into it. I've done all the challenge mode stuff. I got all the blades. I've done all the things because I absolutely adore that game. And when Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was announced at the Nintendo Direct, I knew it was going to happen. Alana didn't believe me. I was talking to her while I was on, and she's like, I don't think it's going to happen. It did. And I was so excited. And then I reviewed it for the site. And I'm going to be honest with y'all, I played this game in like 9 days, a month and a half ago. So my memory of this game is going to be weaker than everybody else's on the podcast, I hope. So I'm going to lean on you guys a little bit today. But the point is, I love the Xeno series. I love what Takahashi does. I love the thematic elements of what he tries to do. I don't always think he perfectly pulls it off, but I appreciate RPGs that reach high and that try to do something unique and big and I guess important, for lack of a better word, when so many fail to do so. So yeah, I love the Xeno series. So I guess we can go ahead and start talking about Xenoblade Chronicles 3, since we have spent a lot of time talking about our history with the series and kind of getting into sort of our initial impressions with it, sort of how we felt about the initial opening story moments and stuff like that. I guess I'll go ahead and get us started. So, you know, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, those of you who don't know, it opens in this world that is dying, sort of. And they even say that in the opening sequence. And you know that something is off. And basically, the notion of the game is that everybody in the world lives for 10 years. And there are these two opposing factions. And over those 10 years, all you do is fight. Like, basically, everyone in the world, your whole goal is war. And that's it. That's your whole life. And of course, that doesn't really seem right. Early on, you know, we know that some things are happening that indicate that maybe this world is sort of a blend of Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2, but we don't really understand how that's the case, how the world came to be. Nia and Melia show up and are like, what? Why are you guys bad? Because you're like nice people in the other games. And so I think that the premise itself is fascinating. I love the way that it introduces it. I love that it drops us right into the action, just like Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I think it's a great opening. And I think that they do a nice job of establishing the characters early on, up through chapter 1. So in terms of like chapter 1, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, like immediately, what stood out to me was like the cinematography, like, and like the cutscene direction was like incredible. Like the way it was like panning up into like the battle, like in the opening battle, and like um I was like, wow, they really stepped it up. And then when you finally see like the like Noah and the group, like they're like entering the battle, it's like it's so good. It's so good. Like when he gets his sword and he's like, when he starts swinging it, it's like, wow, holy crap. Uh,
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree with that. The cutscene direction and the cinematography is far and above any other Xeno game, so that's cool. I'm happy that they're moving in that direction.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, isn't it? Because, like, I think I remember thinking that Xenoblade 2's cutscene direction was amazing. And then, like, 3's just takes it up another notch. But I think the intro just, more than any other Xeno game before it, maybe not Xenogears, and again, I haven't played Saga, but, like, God, does it get started quick. It doesn't really wait at all. Like, I think even Xenoblade 1 does, it kind of ebbs and flows a little bit. Like, the big thing happens at the beginning of Xenoblade 1, and then it just, like, tapers off for a while until you get to Gal Plains and then up and down. But, like, Xenoblade 1 is, like, firing on all cylinders from, like, minute 1, basically. And Xenoblade 2 kind of stumbles for a little bit at the beginning, I think. But yeah, like, it just throws you straight into the action, and immediately, like, you already get a feel for, like, Keves, the three Keves characters, who are Noah, Uni, and Lance. And you get a feel for their dynamic, you get a feel for Colony 9 in general, and it just really kind of sets the stage. Like, immediately from the music in that opening area, I can't remember the specific area, but I know it's the beginning of Asia, right the way to the tone, to the dialogue, it feels way more, and I hate using this word, mature, right from, like, the beginning. And
Melancholy, elegiac. I like those
elegiac,
words.
yeah, those are better words. Yeah, but I think in general, like, Xenoblade 3 feels like it's a lot more grounded. Like, there's definitely a lot more, I don't know, grounded's probably not the right word. Let's go elegiac, I think. There's definitely something more melancholy about it, right from the beginning, even though it feels more balanced. Like, because they're off, Uni's already, like, sworn, like, 4 times in, like, the opening half an hour, so there's definitely some lightness there as well. But yeah, I think it does a really fantastic job of, like, setting everything up, basically.
I think it's interesting that it kind of feels to me, and I don't know if anyone else agrees with this, some people may or not have played Xenogears and Xenosaga or not, but it feels like the Takahashi that wrote Xenogears and Xenosaga rather than the Takahashi that wrote Xenoblade to some degree, in that there is that maturity in relationships and character interactions and the world that I think it. So yeah, I used maturity too. I don't think it's a wrong thing to say about it.
No.
I think it's true.
it feels like he's like, it's like a reaction to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Like he won, I think, maybe the backlash to it, kind of, or like there was like kind of like a negative reaction to like how Saccharine 2 felt sometimes. And yeah, I think this one was like, I don't know, I guess trying to, I don't know, bring it back to Xenogears, I guess.
I'm gonna bring up a spoiler quickly for Xenoblade 2. Well, the end of Xenoblade 3, and talk about Xenoblade 2 a bit, just because I think, because of what you said makes me think of it, is at the very end of Xenoblade 3, there's a cutscene that shows Rex from Xenoblade 2.
Are we talking about Giga Chad Rex already?
Harem. And to me, that immediately felt like a reaction of the devs being like, you all didn't like Rex? Well, he gets all your waifus.
This is why I couldn't sleep after I beat Xenoblade 3. that single image haunts me.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh boy.
You know what's interesting is that is literally the first thing I saw about this game, because like there was a leak of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 like maybe like a week and a half before it dropped, and I saw that image and I'm like, Man, Rex got hot. Wait,
Wait,
wait a second.
It's
Wait a
so
second.
weird.
Are 3 babies? They're all about the same age, which means wait a second. No,
Oh,
they have to
no.
explain this.
Yeah,
And then,
Spoiler
and then you
alert,
look
they
back at
don't.
Pyra and Nia holding hands in the title screen after you finish Xenoblade 2, and you're like, is this are they in a polycule here?
good for them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
good for them. Yeah.
I'm into
like
it.
I know it's been said to death, but like that line that he said, like, I love you and you and all of you. Like,
Yes.
It
Talking about
makes
chapter
sense
7
now.
in Xenoblade 2, right?
Yeah.
It changes
Yeah.
everything.
That was
I
that was a family photo. That everyone in that picture is just in love with Rex. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I see.
Sorry for completely derailing things there, but
No. That's exactly the kind of conversation I'm looking for today. Izzy. I love it. Tyler, if memory serves, we chatted about it a little bit beforehand. I feel like everybody's been pretty positive on the opening of this, but I think that you struggled a little bit more with the opening, right?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I agree that the beginning definitely is intense, and I like how as you guys said, it's going on all cylinders. But I don't. It took me a little bit to warm up to the characters as much. Um, but I think, well, I'll kind of get into it a little bit later. But it was mostly on the because the stuff with the Agnian characters was great. No, Keva's, sorry. The Keva's characters was great. But I kind of wish that they had kind of done a similar thing with the Agnian characters and kind of showed how they led up to the moment in chapter 1 where they all meet together.
So you mean like sort of like a split chapter where it's like them and colonies? That's not Lambda.
This is
the
Gamma.
Gamma.
Yeah.
Them there first and Colony 9 first. Yeah, I think that's a good
like
idea. I like that.
a Wild Arms kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was expecting that. Yeah,
Me too.
I was quite surprised.
Yeah, because we got so much about them and like their history, and then Agnian characters just like showed up. I was like, okay, we're friends now. I'm like, I grew to love the Agnian characters, but it took me longer because we didn't get that same interaction. But
I think
yeah,
we
need
need
it
like
took some time. It took some
Yeah.
time for me.
That's fair. I don't think I think that's maybe a little bit by design. I don't want to give too much credit to developers, but it feels like a lot of the character development in this game is more character excavation of their motivations and who they are over time. So that's
Right.
my vibe there.
Yeah,
Good
I guess
take.
they don't really at the point of them being like 10. And again, not to discredit, because yeah, I had a minute where I was like, so Tyon's just the grumpy one, and Neo is like, I don't know, something else, and then Senna, who it seems really fun, but unfortunately she gets pretty shafted by the entire game by the end of
Yeah.
it. Like it took me a little bit longer to warm up to the Agnian side, I'll agree, but actually like they're really great. But I think as well, like the fact that these characters only live for 10-year cycles, and the idea is that, they're supposed to die at the 10 years, and, what happens to them if they die early? Well, we get into that in a minute, but, like, yeah, so they don't really have any, like, individual history beyond, like, the 10-year window, and you just kind of get fed whatever they have gradually, so, yeah, there's a lot less to latch on to in general, but... yeah.
And they're all coming close to the end of their lives too.
Yeah, they're all like 9, and Mio's only got like 4 months left by the start of the game. So yeah.
So they're kind of set in their ways despite how young they are, which is interesting. And then to have the whole game basically be like, no, you know nothing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you guys are talking about the cast in general, and I because I do feel like in some ways we don't know the characters as well to start as, say, we knew Rex, for example, right, or Shulk or Fiora. But I feel like, for me, by the end of this game, if there's one thing that distinguishes it, it is the cast.
Oh yeah.
I think that for me, like, I'm not sure that I love this. We'll talk more about this later, but like, I don't know that I love the combat more than Xenoblade 2, or the areas more than Xenoblade 1, or the music more than Xenoblade 2. But one thing I know for sure that I like the best is the cast. And interestingly, I also think it's the Agnian side, in particular Uni. because Uni is the actual absolute best. And I
He's the
love
bus.
I love the way that they develop the characters throughout. I feel like I'm consistently learning new things. But there are also times where I feel like I learn new things that should be absolutely part of the main story that are not.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how are the side stories not main content in this game? At least most of them. Like Senna's side story, again, Shaftster, it's really about other characters.
Yeah, this is. Oh, sorry to interject, but this is
No, go ahead.
definitely giving me flashbacks to Xenoblade X, where most
Yeah.
of the best story beats and like development of the world was in its side quests and like character quests.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with that. So, I mean, like, in terms of the cast, what are your favorites? How do you guys feel about the development? Like, where are you guys on that?
For the main cast, I would say my immediate favorite was Senna, pretty much, pretty quickly. She just reminds me of myself a lot. Her constant need to try and prove herself and things like that, which I found pretty obvious pretty quickly, but I've noticed that a lot of people didn't really get that and felt later in the game when that was revealed to be her motivation and kind of more of her driving force and stuff. People felt blindsided by it, which was a surprise to me, but I guess I understand there's just different readings of things and different personal experience to give understanding of stuff. So yeah, Senna was quickly my favorite. I agree with Alana that she wasn't treated so well in the overarching game and that she just didn't get enough screen time and enough development, and even in her own hero quest, it's not really her hero quest.
I forgot it was her hero quest for a while, because like,
Right?
wait, it's like this is about Gondor and Shania. This isn't about Senna.
Like, I feel like I learned a lot about Shania, and it was like a good development moment for Shania, but
Yeah.
which was also should have been part of the main story, arguably.
Indeed.
But yeah, I'd like to say I love the whole cast, all of the main characters. I liked Noah a lot more than I expected to, because as the main character, I just generally expect to not like them quite as much. But he's an interesting character. I really like how silent he is, and he kind of like does a lot of listening to other people and then responding to the situation afterward, and things like that. I think that's a cool dynamic that I haven't seen very much, especially in a main character. I really like Mio, and especially because, so getting a little out of that main cast, but to the two main villains, M and N, I would say are the main antagonists, despite the fact that they're not. It's complicated, but I would say they're the important villains that you actually care about. And I think M and Mio as like a group, as a character, as their development together, because spoilers, because we're talking about the whole game, they're basically the same person. And them together is probably my favorite character thing, is just like how those two talk to the world, how they interact, how Mio develops in having met M and learning her memories and things like that. Very cool stuff.
I really enjoyed the cast. As you said, it's one of the best kind of casts, because they work so well together. My favorites are definitely Tyon. I didn't expect to like Uni. I don't know why I didn't expect to like Uni, but I love her. I love her.
You what?
Yeah, and like also I love Riku and Manana a lot.
Oh, yeah.
They're like my favorite Nopon characters of the entire series.
Oh,
Easily.
God, hands down.
Yes, I love them so much.
They're a great pair. You get the like goofy Nopon, but then you get Riku, who's like the serious character who is the C10 of this game, in my opinion.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah.
It's even got like a similar color palette. Yeah.
Oh, I mentioned this earlier off stream, but it was like he has this little moment with Melia at the end where they have this knowing nod to each other. Like, what was that all about? What do you what?
Yeah.
What do you know?
What do you know? A Riku appreciation hour, okay?
Yeah.
So, I'll be honest. Like, Nopons in this game usually annoy the living hell out of me, but I love the Nopon characterization in this game in general. And Riku is different from any other Nopon ever, and he's so amazing. But oh my gosh, I'm going to complain later about the ambiguities in this game. But like, why don't we know more about Riku?
Right? I love how it's just like you sit at a campfire if you do like the reuniting the 7 Nopon quest and you're looking for the last one and he's just like, "Oh, the last hammer's in Colony 9." And they're like, "Oh, why didn't you tell us the last member of there was in Colony 9?" I was like, "Oh, it's me." And everyone's like, "What?" And I'm just like, "Oh, we're just going to ignore that. We're just going to ignore that he's one of the legendary Nopon who can make the magical weapons." Like, okay.
And
Riku
that was
is
the moment where I said Citan, right?
Definitely.
100%.
Yeah, he's either Citan or Alvis or someone of equal importance in Xenosaga. Let's just say that. Probably. Maybe. Yeah, I mean Izzy said Noah, and actually I remember when I was playing this pretty fresh, people were complaining about how Noah was not as like animated as Shulk or Rex, or didn't have like any immediate like standout qualities that were as obvious as maybe Faye. But like to me, Noah is like pretty clearly my favorite main character in the Xeno series, I think. Just because of a lot of the things that Izzy said. Like he's actually a protagonist who listens. He doesn't like rush headfirst into things, and he's got a real level of maturity about him, especially again in regards to the end stuff, at the beginning of chapter 6, where they're like confronting each other and they have that discussion about like, oh, N is you if you'd made all the wrong choices, and Noah sees all that and he gets close to making that decision, but then like he's like, no, wait. So like I do really like how much more grounded he is overall. But I want to give a little shout out to Lance. I think Uni and Mio are probably my favorite characters, but Lance, immediately I was like, oh, you're just going to be like another Ryan, and I like Ryan a lot, but like Ryan has definitely got like the kind of job of being like what's the right term for it? I guess like the best friend kind of, not the idiot best friend, but he does have some of those qualities. But like Ryan definitely is a bit of a butt of a joke sometimes, and definitely, but is very wholesome and very like supportive of Rex. But Lance has some really, really amazing character moments, especially in like a lot of the ascension quests, the hero quests, and in particular with Tyon, because like him and Tyon hate each other at the beginning. But there's this conversation, I think it's in the Mactha Wildwood, where they're both like having a chat, and Tyon and Lance get to like understand each other's philosophies, because obviously Tyon's way more like logical, slow, and thought out about things, and Lance is a bit more like hot-headed and brash, but they both see like really good sides to each other. So like I think Tyon's like, oh, I wish I was more confident, and then Lance is like, oh, I'm not confident, I'm just like scared, but if I look scared then people are gonna worry, you know what I mean? And so yeah, I was really, really surprised that they gave him such like good poignant moments, and like he's just a big softie in the end. I just ended up loving Lance a lot.
Yeah, and not to jump ahead a lot, but like I feel like his relationship with Yorin, um
Uh-huh.
and Console J, as we discover, it is one of the most fascinating in the game, and I think that I have a lot of issues with the fact that death, and I know that's part of the premise, right? Like death doesn't mean anything in this world, right? But I feel like a lot of times when they just keep bringing characters back, it lacks the punch they want it to have, with like Miyabi or Chris later. But with Yorin at the end of chapter 3, if I'm not mistaken, when you discover that he is Consul J, and Lanz's wrestling with the way that he talked to Yorin, the way that he treated Yorin, the way that he wants to help Yorin, I think gets to so much of what this game is about the importance of the immediate, but also the importance of pressing forward for the immediate. And like Yorin seems so lost. It seems like there's no way you're going to bring Yorin back. And sometimes I think it's annoying that they bring people back, but with Yorin, I felt like they developed it over the course of the game so effectively, and Lanz's interactions with him were so critical to that, that I thought that it was beautiful. And Lanz's side story, even though it seems sort of slight, is I think really lovely. And I agree with you. I think that Lanz is a great character in this game, and he's kind of slept on in the community at large.
Just remembered something with Uni as well. Not necessarily in relation to Jay, but I think some stuff came about because of it. I think not only is Uni great because she's this like memeable, loud, brash, boisterous, like female character who's great, but I think that she has one of, and like Takahashi has a hit and miss like reputation or like history with dealing with mental health stuff. Uni is probably one of the best Japanese RPG representations of any kind of like anxiety or PTSD or anything like that. Like we were talking about like the like amazing like the very big cinematography, but also the moments where she like remembers a past life that she's had with oh god, is it D? Is it which console member is it?
I think
the
it's
console
D.
D.
Yeah.
I think it's D.
Yeah. Like she shakes like continuously, and then it happens a couple more times, and also the other way the other characters like react to it as well is very like it's so like subtle. They don't just like panic over her. They're like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" They're just like, "You okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I'll be fine." And they like deal with it in a way better way, I think, than most other RPGs or people sometimes would. So I think that's why, like in the end, she's probably right up there. But yeah, like everyone said, like this cast is pretty brilliant. Like even outside of the main cast, I think there are some really cool moments that everybody generally gets.
Going back to what you said about Uni, like that scene with her and Tyon where he notices she's going through things and he
God.
just like relates to her and like gives her some tea to calm her down. I was like, that was such a good scene.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a shipper. That's not really my style. But Tyne on Uni, yes.
I mean,
yes.
he's her fourth best friend, though, Zach.
Like,
right?
As a person who identifies heavily with Tyon, I take offense to that.
I mean, I wouldn't mind if the DLC was just Uni and Tyon, like or like a rom-com or something. That was it.
I'm sort of glad they didn't like put them into romantic pairings all the way. Like, I'm glad that
Yeah.
Noah and Mio is right though. Like,
Yeah.
but
Lance
I'm
and
always
Senna are gem buddies.
oh, I love that they don't. Yeah, I love their relationship.
Yes.
The stupid cutscene, like a couple of weeks ago, or it might have been this week. I don't know when this is going up. Like Nintendo of America, like tweeted the cutscene where Senna and like Lance are just training, and they make the really loud noises in the camp. Do you remember that? Where they're just like, I don't know, like it's like so
Yes.
weird.
Oh.
And I was like, wait, this is a cutscene? I was like, why is this here? But it's a great moment for them.
I love those two. They're just best friends who really like working out together.
Yeah.
Such a dynamic.
Yeah,
Yes.
their dynamic's really great because he's like the big brother to her a little bit. And I love the conversation they have where they're just both like, oh, we're both, I can't remember the specific words they use, but it's like, oh, we're both just average, or we're both just okay, or something like that. And let's be okay together, kind of thing. I don't think that's the specific term they use, but like they say like, oh, I'm not very good at this thing, and they both like say like, oh, let's do this, let's continue doing this together. And yeah, it's just like a great moment. Not like, oh, you'll be better. It's just like a, no, you're great as you are. Let's be great together kind of thing, even with our shortcomings or whatever.
And then going back to Noah and Mio's relationship, which is very clearly inspired by Faye and Ellie from Xenogears. So that's I would say those two relationships are the two best done romantic relationships in the Xeno series by far.
Oh yeah.
I don't think anyone would argue with that. They
No,
definitely have that thematic similarity of like lovers, star-crossed lovers across time, falling in love over and over again, but never quite getting it right until this game, which is it's a fun concept that I am glad that Takahashi went back to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of talking about Noah specifically, I think that one of the things that I find fascinating about Noah, and I agree that I think Noah is the strongest protagonist in the series, and I really like Shulk a lot, and I like Rex more than a lot of people do. What is he, like 15 in that game? Like, get him a break. But I think that he so clearly represents the way that we as players are interacting with the game and the way that we would feel about it, at least the way that we should feel about it, right? And I think that as you see him moving towards the end of chapter 5 and the way that he reacts to Mio being taken from him, he so clearly represents what we think we would do and how we would react to those situations, which gets to the whole idea of the game. Because if Noah is allowed to continue on the path that he's on with the way he's reacting to the way Mio is taken from him, then he becomes N, right?
Mhm.
And I think that one of the reasons that he's such a brilliant protagonist is that he does, at almost every moment, I felt like he was doing exactly what I felt like was the right thing. But if he continued to do what I thought was the right thing, he would eventually become N, because he would be lost to the despair of the fact that he cannot change anything. Or at least he thinks he can't change anything. It feels immutable. And if he tries to change things, he loses what's close to him. And I identify with that, and I think that we're supposed to identify with it, and it allows us to see N more clearly. It allows us to see the philosophy that Takahashi is pressing forward in this game more clearly, because Noah is such a listener, and because he's so interested, and because he reacts in ways that we totally think are reasonable, but ultimately would lead to his destruction if he continued that way. And I think that's what makes him such a fascinating character to me.
I like the contrast with N, with the way N is, because I noticed like the way N talks about like M, for example. He's like my Mio. Like I remember, I think he said like my woman at some point. Like you stole my woman. Like during that
Yeah.
scene, and like it's so unlike Noah. It's like it's very misogynist or something. It sounds like that, and I I know it's like it's hard to reconcile with Noah, and I wonder, like, is the game trying to say like that was always inside Noah, who is so pure otherwise, like who seems so like an empath.
No, I was going to say, like, I think that's one of the things that the ending kind of brings about, isn't it? Like, one of the key things that someone points out in the last chapter is that, and I think Zach does not like this phrase, but I will use it, there is a little bit of Mobius in everybody, or something like that. Somebody says that, which is the
Yeah.
same kind of thing, right? Like, so, and it's like a really semi-subtle, but more obvious towards the end way of saying, like, everyone's capable of good and bad kind of thing. But I think Noah and N in particular are such a good representation of that, just because of like how similar they are. And like Zach said, like we can root for, we agree with a lot of Noah's choices, but everything we thought that they might do would have led them to becoming N. And so I think like one of the key messages the game wants us to see is like, oh yeah, everyone's good and bad and stuff like that. But that's one of the towards the end, that's definitely one of the more sloppy things. But I think like N and Noah is a good part of a good representation of that message at least. So yeah, it's like just everyone's capable of anything, which yeah.
I'm gonna open up a can of worms here, but to me, Zed very much clearly represents conservatism.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Very, very obvious. There's no like that is obviously what they're going for, because the resistance to change and the fact that
Mhm.
you need progress and things like that, and how they're talking about how everyone has a little bit of Mobius in them. Mobius is like conservative, but it's also tradition. It's you know um, keeping things, and like that can be good sometimes. Sometimes there are things that you traditions you might want to keep because that feels good or because it actually has meaning or things like that. But then when you take it to that extreme that is Zed, where you're trying to pull everything backwards or keep everything the same at all times, then you become this stagnant, awful thing.
That's a good
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
of putting it. I hadn't thought of it specifically like Z as conservatism, but now that I think about it, like
Mhm.
yeah, one of the big themes of Xenoblade 3 is change, right? And like I think one of the lines that sticks with me most in this game is like, you gave us a choice, Noah. And what I find really interesting about the fact that Mobius is called Mobius and Ouroboros are the good guys is Ouroboros is traditionally evil. Ouroboros traditionally means darkness, evil, stuff like that. And Mobius, I think, means light in some kind of language. So they've kind of flipped it on its head a little bit. But also like yeah, it's just like the amount, like if nothing changes, then the reason people become consoles is because they are given this like power, and they're given more power, and for for the benefit of like keeping things as they are, because nothing will change, and that's what they're angry about. But then everybody who isn't a console member or isn't part of Mobius becomes more powerful as they are given the freedom to choose, right? Like they suddenly get this like confidence about it and start to band together. And one thing that I found really interesting, one of my favorite things about Xenoblade 3 is I think that like a lot of the different colonies have so many of their own traditions. And like they all have their different ways of like addressing death. Like Colony, oh my god, Colony, the one in the Mac the Wildwood, what's her name? What's their names?
Juniper's colony.
Junipers, yeah. Like they believe that everyone goes back to the earth, whereas like there's another colony, I can't remember specifically, but everyone treats every death differently. Like everyone's got their own like funeral traditions, and everyone's got like their own like rites of passage, and every colony does a different thing. Like Colony 30 does like Levnis building, and then Colony Lambda is the mining colony for Ether. So everything's got its own tradition. But then when they break free of this, they all start to like share these jobs, and like Juniper shares like the farming with Colony 9 or Colony 4, Colony 9, yeah. And then so on. Like it just like it kind of like spreads it out a little bit more, and like the traditions are kept, but like things ultimately change and evolve with that. But yeah, it's like a real like shift away from like what Zed's trying to do, which is probably why, Zed hates everything, like
tradition, the thing with tradition, the how they do keep that is cool. Like I think belief is treated very well in this game compared to maybe sometimes in Takahashi games where they're a little bit harsh on people's belief and faith and things like that and tradition. But I think Xenoblade 3 strikes a really good balance with it, where characters' beliefs are usually treated well unless they're awful beliefs. So they're like, and they're often used as part of other people developing. And the thing about how the colonies start interconnecting, like this is going into side content now and stuff, but it's so cool how the further you get, the more the colonies like interact with each other and interconnect, and the world becomes like this big interconnected web of actual society instead of the endless war and no culture that it has before that.
Which again reminds me of Xenoblade X when you go through the different side quests, how the different races like kind of come together and develop society on Mira.
Yeah, like New LA starts off as just like, does it just start off as humans, or is it just like a bunch of different things? But the more side quests you do, it's like more races, more buildings get built, you see it evolve more. Yeah.
Well, I want to take what Izzy said like a step further. It's like when he said that Zed is like an avatar for like conservatism, like it kind of gets at what I feel like the game's actually about, which is like, well, isn't it well, up to me the game is about like capitalism, or like the whole setup, like what Noah says at the start, like working, killing in order to live and living in order to fight, something like that. And then I mean, it's obviously like, it sounds exactly like working in order to live, or like living in order to work, kind of thing. And like the whole setup of like Mobius being like this untouchable like upper class who are
They're
basically
billionaires.
Dictating the way everyone else works. It's like I thought it was like pretty on the nose almost in many ways, and like the way like the colonies like interact, right? Like I remember one colony, I think it was Alexandria's, like they explicitly were doing like mutual aid, which is like a socialist concept that I didn't expect to be in the game, be presented in the game the way it was. And I thought it was really cool, and like I think that's part of the reason I like the game so much. Like,
Yeah,
it's not afraid to
Alexandria and
dance for that.
Yeah, Alexandria invented the cards, didn't she? The Collectopedia cards as well, which everybody used. So it's like, when she said that, I was like, because I think I got Alexandria pretty early for when you could get her. I was like, oh my god, like So even though that this war is going on, like, there is actually some mutual, like, respect and understanding and, like, system in place to ensure that, like, under that power, they're still, like, helping each other in their own way, but then they, like, start to use it to their own gain. So yeah, Colony Iota is a really interesting colony in general.
And I think what's interesting about it, and I think that I agree. Like, as I was playing through it, I was like, all right, I can see the anti-capitalist workings here. But one of the things that I think makes this game work so well is that it's not such a simple allegory. Like, I teach a short story called The Lottery. I'm an English teacher, and it's all about, like, basically this town just, like, stones a person to death once a year just because they've always done it. No real reason other than that. And my students are always like, what? But I think that it hones in on why people hold on to the way things are. And certainly power structures is part of it when you're talking about consoles. But I think when you're talking about someone like N or M, I don't think power struggles or power concepts or being in power is why N or M ultimately become consoles. They become consoles because they want the infinite now. And that idea of holding on to what you have at the cost of anything. And I think that Noah would have done that. And I think that in a lot of ways, I would do that. I would burn things to the ground if it meant I didn't lose the things that were important to me. And I like that it humanizes that issue that you guys are talking about, which is where and I think it's interesting because the consoles so frequently are just like these comic book villains. They're horrific. But N and M are not comic book villains. And I think that it allows us to sort of ground ourselves as non-billionaires in how those people become stuck in what they want. How I don't care if I'm getting political here, how Donald Trump supporters support what he supports because they feel like they're losing the thing that matters to them. In the case of, like, white dudes, it's like, I am on top all the time. In the case of Noah, it is Mio. In the case of N, it is M. In the case of the consoles, it is everlasting life, power, things like that. And so I think that it deals with it on a variety of levels where it's not like such a clean, simple, obvious allegory. Instead, it allows us to connect with why other people think the way they think.
The humanity of Xenoblade, the whole series in particular, is always the thing that stands out to me. And I think Xenoblade 3 takes that to the best degree at its very best moments, like N and M being the clear example. And I think I said to you at the time, Zach, that, like, N reminds me of Krellian from Xenogears the most. Definitely because of this kind of, like, not fallen hero necessarily, because N is definitely not like a fallen hero, but, like, it's definitely like you've lost something important to you and he wants it back, kind of thing. And I wish, and I don't want to get to the ending just yet, but I wish N had a bit more. He has a redemption section at the end, but I wish that there'd been more to it, and I really wish N had actually been the final boss of the game, to be quite honest with you. Like, it would have been a real, like, coming together of, like, the philosophies of what the game was trying to preach in some ways. But they didn't, so never mind.
I kind of like to restructure it in my head as though N is kind of the final boss, Zed's just a victory lap.
Fair enough. I like that idea.
Would you agree with that, Tyler? Just a victory lap?
Just a victory lap. I lost an hour of sleep for.
Oh.
No, no, I would agree. And I was definitely getting like Groth vibes from N, but I guess I do see.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's kind of both, right?
Yeah.
He's
He's a combination of both, yeah.
I mean, the consoles all wear variations of Graf's armor as well. Like, one of them literally has a helmet that is exactly the same as Graf's helmet. And I'm like, come on, Takahashi. Come on.
You did.
At least having them in 3D means I don't see a giant booger coming out of
Yes.
That's true.
Talking about the humanity, though, of the Xenoblade games, I think that's a good place to bring up when they get to the city.
Yes.
Because that is incredibly impactful and very, very human.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's just like these characters who have only ever experienced war. They don't really have an understanding of a lot of things about what human life is like in our world, in the real world, because their world just doesn't have those things. And then getting like to the city and seeing people who have aged, talking about like aging, talking about giving birth and having children and actually raising your children, the scene in the hospital, all of that. Wow.
Who wants to learn where babies come from?
Oh God,
Funny.
absolute like emotional whiplash of me being in tears at these like 6 like kids essentially like holding their fingers out to a baby, to the doctor coming in and being like, "Who wants to learn where babies are from?" Just like, I'm trying to cry here, Xenoblade. Stop it.
To me, that as much as that is, it does that whiplash and is kind of funny, I feel like this whole thing going into the city is one of the most powerful moments I've ever experienced in video games.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I agree. Because for me, like, and I've said this, off air. Like, I really enjoyed Xenoblade Chronicles 3 up through Chapter 4. I think that the fight between Kamaravi and Ethel, and we'll talk about the hero characters more later, is like the first like moment where I'm like, all right, this game rules. And then when they got to that, I was like, okay, I see you, Takahashi. I was like, all right. And like that way that this game does such a great job of enhancing and like looking at the moments in life that matter. And I think that and we'll get to the ending later, and I think in some ways the ending makes us feel like all the things we've done are irrelevant, but I actually think that's sort of the point. Like, everything is irrelevant, but those moments of joy, those moments of beauty that you get with the baby, and like when you realize that Mio is still there, and like that the love, I mean, like Mio's death, which is just like a lovely send off. And it's like the one moment where I'm like, oh, they came back, and I'm totally okay with it. Like it focuses so well on the minutia of life, and like you were talking earlier, like that moment between Tyon and Uni is so lovely. And I think that this is maybe the apex of those minutia of life moments that you should have in a normal existence, along with all the pain, the suffering, and all that. And I think it's great.
I think like going back to something Izzy said about like these characters like finally seeing like how people are, like the aging and things like that. There are so many like little subtle moments like that throughout the game. Like the very first one obviously is when you meet Van Damme and everyone's like, "Why is your face all wrinkly?" And you're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like,
Can
"Oh
we
wait,
talk
yeah."
about the fact that they never explain, and I'm gonna keep harping on the fact of the things they don't explain. How he looks exactly the same.
I know, right?
Like, it's not just that it's not that he looks similar, it's that he is Van Damme. And they never even address it.
He's white. This is a white Van Damme. Van Damme
That's true. That's true. That's true.
yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
I mean, he is just kind of a connective tissue throughout the whole Xeno series, though. Like, Van Damme just exists.
Yeah, but
that's
there
not
are
an explanation.
maybe they'll give us something, who knows. Yeah, but like there are just so many little moments like that. Like, oh god, there was another one I came across the other day. Oh, like different words that people use in the city. Like they don't understand what family is, they don't understand what marriage is, they don't understand what love is. They don't. Yeah, that's the one. Like they're like, oh, the city. I was always like, why is it called the city? And I'm like, oh, because there are no other towns. There's like the concept of town life doesn't exist because a colony, even though I've played like Xenoblade 1 where colonies are essentially towns, it's so different. And again, like they do the thing with the thing with the baby is the thing that really like tipped me over the edge. I was just like, well, you're really gonna do this to me, aren't you? Like, and they do it again. They do it again with Noah and Mio in chapter 6, but we'll get to that.
Oh yeah. Okay, a little bit more on the city before we move away from it. I just love that place. I spent so much time just wandering around the city, and there's like some of the sign content there. So like, obviously other stuff hit me really hard, but as someone who's a voracious reader and writer, the quest with about the novels where they didn't understand what a novel was.
Oh my god, I love that.
Leanne, the author.
Yeah, and just coming to the realization that people could write stories that don't necessarily have to be true, but they're a truth, they're a thing.
Yeah.
That was strong for me too.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's a good one. Yeah, and the one with the painting as well, where they find like the old painting and they get it like appraised. And then there's the artist in Kevis Castle who's like, I do portraits, and they're like, what's a portrait? Is
Right.
it like a painting? And then they get it appraised for value, and then he's like, oh, you found the value of it for me, but now you've just re-inspired me to do even better than that. So I'm going to do a portrait of Fiona, and she needs to stand there for 23 hours. So you need to talk to her for 23 hours. I'm like,
Oh my gosh,
okay.
I have not done that one yet. That sounds hilarious. Which I was also going to mention. I also love the city because it's interesting because even though they're like fighting this good fight against Mobius, they still have their own internal issues. Like there's
Mhm.
also like a class system within the city itself, and the like the
Yeah.
various houses, and
Yeah.
yeah, it gets even more complex. And
And the
thought that was
founders,
Mhm.
which
Oh, God.
endless
Yeah.
speculation on who they are.
Another
DLC.
thing
DLC.
that's left
Yep,
ambiguous.
I'm
Yeah.
so curious. Is the DLC going to deal with them or not? Like, I kind of want it to, but I also want to go to the future, so it's...
I was just gonna complain because I know there were like several, like maybe 2 or 3 of the statues. Like this was their, teacher or not
Yeah.
the actual founder. It's like why?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why not the actual founder? That's just a little thing that was
So
like.
they're gonna release the DLC and then patch the statues in with the actual people.
Oh, yeah, just going into the city, though. Because through this whole game, you're going through these colonies, and, like, you kind of just get into this pattern in your head of, like, this is what a town's like here. This is what a city's like in this world. It's just a colony. That's what they are. They're towns. They're cities. But then you get to the city, and you're like, no, this is the difference between a colony
Mhm.
and an actual town, a city. Like, even though in real life you know that difference, because it's a video game, like, you just get so into your head of, oh, these colonies are just the cities or towns of this game, but they really aren't.
No.
I just
They're their
thought
own
of
weird thing.
I just thought of something. I apologize for jumping around, but yeah, like when you were saying the founders, because it's interesting because they are just as conservative as Mobius in a way because they want to
Mhm.
just stay where they are and not deal with like they just want to just not deal with the outside world at all. And I thought that was also an interesting kind of comparison to Mobius in a way.
Yeah, there's literally a group of people just called the Conservatives in the city,
Mhm.
aren't there?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, conservatives.
No
yeah.
way. I didn't see that.
I think
Yeah, it's part of Gray's hero quest is where they become most obvious.
Mhm.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and I
60-year-old
like that.
Gray. Oh, go on.
Yeah, exactly. I like that there's actually like he's old and he's actually old. Thank you, JRPG. But when he has his mask off, he looks really cool.
Yeah.
And he looks cool with his mask on too. But yeah, I mean, I think that they clearly are showing that these colonies are not a monolith. You know what I mean? Like they're not like colonies and the city as well. They're not a monolith. They're not all just a bunch of people who all believe and think and want to do the same thing.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it gets to that idea like the characters in this game are so well written. And we're like an hour in here. I think that it would also before we even talk about the end of chapter 5, 6, and 7, we can talk about some side content here. Because I think that gets to some of the ideas that you guys were talking about. The way that side content is so essential, the way that side content is so well done, and the way that it builds the complexity of all these different colonies. Like if you take there's only one, I haven't done all the side content in this game, but I did colony 4 all the way to the end. And like the way that they develop these colonies into these whole existences, like the side content in this game is so much better than it was in the previous 2 mainline games. I know it crosses its own beast, but it's so much better and it builds them so effectively. So what did you guys think of the side content? What are some of your favorites? What do you guys think?
One of the quests that stick out to me in particular is I think it's either chapter 3 or chapter 4, and it's at colony. Oh my god, it's either Iota or Gamma. I think it might be Gamma. But they're trying to find a new Offseer, and I can't believe I haven't like explained Offseer. Like Offseers are people who like send off the dead soldiers. Basically, they play a flute, and again, it's another like ritual of death kind of thing. But like this girl's like really nervous. She can't play the flute like very well, and she's like, I want to help, like I want to do it. And Noah's like, oh, I'll show you. And there's this like just really nice, what you do is like go to different like corpses and like play the music, and she gets gradually better. And you'll find out that she's doing it because I think she was friends with the previous one, or she was friends with someone who died, and she wanted to be the person who sent them. And so I thought that was just a really nice, lovely little side quest. But there are so many good ones. Like, I beat this game about a month and a half ago at this point, or maybe just over a month ago, and I can't remember most of them. But like the whole game in itself is really just like the side quests are so important to the world building. Like, why?
I love how often they deal with Offseers in this game in general, but also in the side quests.
Yeah.
That there's like that Nopon who wants to be an Offseer
Colony
because
30,
yeah, in Colony 30, who wants to become an Offseer because they admired the old one, and just like how important those rituals are to these people, I think is really lovely, and really true to real life.
I think it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. It goes back to like us talking about how this game deals with tradition in nuanced ways. Like they literally come to the realization that off-seeing does nothing, but at the same time, it does everything. It's important to these people. It lets them deal with death and things like that, despite the fact that it's not doing anything for the people who died.
I really loved when they introduced Colony Zero, because I thought that was an interesting aspect of like there's this colony that's not specifically Kevez or Agnes, but it's like perpetually like making certain that the war continues. And I love how it just kind of, I don't know, I thought that was interesting, but at the same time when they like I guess stopped being what they were doing, it was interesting how they kind of tried to create their own little society and try to stop being such that terrible force.
I think
world.
Colony Zero is one of the most fascinating like side quest sequences in the entire game. I mean, like the hero character, and we'll talk about hero characters in a second here, but the hero character is kind of useless in battle, but and the classes too. But like I feel like the way that those different people reconcile with that, the way that you built, you take over this prison and you create a new colony and you create something that is new, and you have to create new traditions, as we're talking about. I think is really lovely. I loved that side quest sequence. I think it's one of the strongest like sequences up to an Ascension quest, and then the Ascension quest I thought was really strong. But the Ascension quests were usually a little bit weaker than the initial hero quests, but not in that case. That they were really good there.
Also reminds me that other people got to use mecha and we didn't.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
I was so upset. It was like, right?
I had a theory going into Xenoblade 3. My theory was we would lose Ouroboros partway through the game and we would get mechas instead, as like a reference to the Monado with Shulk, when he loses the Monado and then he makes his own. I honestly thought this was going to happen, and then maybe we'd get it back at the very end or something. And I was kind of disappointed it didn't happen, but it was my old handcanon, so obviously I can't be that disappointed. But
yes, I was like upset because we'll get into, but with heroes you get unlock new classes, and those classes come with costumes and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, all my characters are gonna be in mech suits. No.
You just get a Evangelion suit instead.
Pretty much.
Plug suit.
Yeah, plug suit basically.
Yeah. Anyway, put mecha back in Xenoblade.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes.
What was some of your favorite side content, Gio?
I think the one side quest made me cry, and so I remember it, which is the Colony Mew side quest, the one with Fiona. That whole thing with Irma, like her friend was like the Mobius all along, and it was so emotional. It was like a different anime, and
that was also an interesting colony in how they actually had like this affection and joy and stuff that other colonies didn't really have because they were so isolated.
Yeah. I don't know. I forget why they were planting flowers. Was it like to like honor their dead brethren or something?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I thought that was nice. The only thing I don't like about that side quest is that at the end of it, a giant rock appears in the middle of the field, and it kind of ruins the vibe. Like I don't know if you remember like a giant rock in the middle of the training ground or something. Yeah, but like that whole side quest, the story was like probably the standout for me. Personally, I didn't do too many. I think I was kind of rushing to get to the end, but yeah, I probably will revisit. I want to see what Gray is up to, and I want to see what uh, Colony Zero is up to. I think that's the one with the machinist, right? The machine assassin.
Yeah, the mech
Yeah.
assassin,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want
Yeah.
to see what that's about.
I mean, that's a good segue into talking about hero characters, because man, I love the hero characters in this game. I love the hero system in this game. Look, like I am a Xenoblade 2 defender. I totally am, but the gacha system on pulling those things, like I think I forget how painful it was sometimes. Like, and I pulled Cosmos early. Like I pulled Cosmos like I had like 15 rare blades to pull before, like when I got Cosmos. Newt was my last one. Newt was my last one, and I had just given up at that point. I was
Cosmos
like,
was my second rare blade, so
What the
Oh
hell?
my
I
God.
still
You know
have
what?
her.
no one can ever be upset about me getting Cosmos when I did now. Okay,
Chapter
my
9.
second rare blade.
Chapter 9.
What's the
100
pull rate?
hours.
It's like 1%. The pull rate for that's like 1%, I think.
Yeah,
I don't have her.
it basically solved the gacha system for me because I was like, I don't care anymore.
Exactly.
Whatever I get.
That's what happened. But
Right.
it took me-
Now I have Cosmos. Yeah, but that gacha system is totally gone here. Although someone on our Facebook feed in response to my review said that gacha's still here. They're wrong. What the hell they're talking about? But I'm not kidding. Someone said that. I was like, what are you even talking about? But heroes. I love the system. I think that the way that the quests work are fantastic. I love their position in battle. How really the only thing that matters about your hero character is how good are they in a chain attack, which the answer is Ashera. Yes, because she's busted, and she's also got one of my favorite ascension quests, and her whole quest line I think is fantastic. So what are your thoughts on the hero characters, the hero system in general, and who's your favorite hero?
I mean, you have to start. Melia is the best. Melia is my favorite hero.
I cannot figure out how to use her class, like not at all. And I used her all the time, mained her in Xenoblade 1. I have no idea how to use her class in Xenoblade 3.
Okay, because I before I beat the game, I saw a YouTube like thumbnail that had Nia as a hero character. I'm like, wait, what? So I was like, spoilers?
Oh, for the record, Tyler just beat the game. I'm
Yes.
sorry, Tyler. But Nia and Melia are both post-game hero characters.
How do you get? I mean, that's probably a question for later, but I don't know.
No, it's fine. Melia, you literally just have they're both the easiest hero quests of all time. You literally just go talk to them again. So go back to Agnes Castle, go back to Kevis Castle, or Cloudkeep in Nia's case, and go back to Kevis Castle in Mia's case, and you will get them both immediately as hero characters.
Okay, thank you.
And so then, yeah, my second favorite is Nia.
Nice.
But then if we want to talk about the heroes that are new to this game, Alexandria, Ashura, we mentioned both of them already. My two favorites by far. I mean, other than Riku and Manana, who almost don't feel like hero characters because they're there so much in the story that they feel like they're part of your party, even when they're not fighting with you.
In terms of like side quests, because I think my favorite class or hero, but ignoring their side stuff because it's not really that good, is Kamaravi in the Seraph class. Like, I think that is my favorite combat class, which is like just, high damage, high risk, because it's like a berserker class, right? Every skill you use will either increase the damage you do to yourself or do damage to yourself, but the lower your health, the more damage you do. So it's like playing with like fire basically, which he's on fire. And yeah, I love playing as a Seraph, but like in terms of story, Fiona is certainly up there. I think Fiona's Colony Mew in general has such an interesting system, and like she's the leader, but she presents as pretty young, as do the whole of that colony, right? They're all like very wide-eyed and like very eager and curious and very teamwork driven to a degree where they have their own like salute and they have their own motto. I also really like Xeon's Ascension quest, and in general I think like Colony 4 has. Like, I hate like the back and forth. I hate it. It's annoying.
Yes, I was gonna
The
say
poten-
that was the worst part, but the yeah, go on.
But the
I skipped
story
that.
side of it, yeah, the story stuff is really good. And Alexandria I also love. I don't think there's necessarily the only weird hero quest or ascension quest was Monica, and Monica's ascension quest is weird. Like,
Oh, I love.
yeah.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
Go on.
Go
What were you gonna say?
I'm
You
just.
love
I love Monica, but there's just so much about her and her ascension quest that's just kind of like
troubling.
troubling. Yes, because at first I was like relating to her. It's like, oh, she's 33. I'm also 33. That's cool. Oh, she's got a daughter who is 18.
Oh, okay. Right, yeah. No, that bit's
And
fine. I just found it weird that
yeah.
like one of the squad members like fell in love with her.
Yeah,
like,
and it's
I was
her,
like, where did that come from?
and it's her dead husband's younger brother too, and it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a bit
It's-
weird.
the math
but yeah,
there gets all. Ugh.
It's like some 1800s Victorian stuff, all right?
Like,
The
true.
British people know all about it.
Oh, she's Australian, okay? Like, don't get me involved in that. And yeah, I know that's a whole other issue.
I love her otherwise. She's great, and I
Yeah,
love her in
yeah.
combat too.
Yeah, I do as well. But yeah, I think generally like the hero quests are all very, very good. Again, I think I really like Juniper to a degree, but I know like they definitely have one of the weaker quest lines in general. But yeah, I think they're
Agreed.
all pretty good.
I guess I should mention, since I mentioned the characters, but I didn't really talk about them much. Ashura is definitely my favorite class to play as. I mean, you can see by the fact that I gave a very high score to the controversial Chrono Cross port that's not very good port, but I just love that game so much. One of my favorite games of all time. Surge uses the double swords. Ashura uses the double swords. Can't resist that weapon. But she's also really cool. Like, her quality is super hardcore, but also seeing her interactions with Uni specifically, like
Yeah.
how, like,
Yeah.
she kind of feels like both a foil to Uni, but also at the same time, Uni could be Ashura in another life.
100%. Yeah.
I love her Ascension quest. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
just like the way that she talks about death and wanting to die and all that history with the consoles is really, really moving. I think her Ascension quest is the best by far.
Oh, yeah, agreed. Also, can we give like a brief shout out to Triton, Man of the Sea?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, Captain James.
I knew you would love the pirate character, Alana.
I know, right? But like, he has one of the stupidest Ascension quests. It's amazing. So like, basically, he's like, oh, I have a memory and I need to go find it. So you have to go around the world and like try and find a bunch of clues. And you basically go up to handprints. He's like, oh, my handprint's the size of a walrus kind of thing. And it's like, you just go around and he remembers like little things of this old friend that he had. Because Triton is Consul T. Triton is a Consul member. So he's been around for a long, long, long time. And the more you get through it, you're like, what are we searching for? And you find out that it's a jar of miso paste. And his friend was just trying to make...
Gosh. That is the only Ascension quest I haven't done, and now I need to.
I honestly loved it.
Yes.
It was hilarious and wholesome at the end.
Yeah. And the traveling around doing all that is very like thematically similar to the fact that you travel around fighting unique monsters to upgrade his class too.
Yeah. Just these random monsters come out of nowhere and they just bring back some memories for him each time. It's like, oh, but it's funny as well because like Tyon's like so against doing it, and then Lance is like, no, we've got to do it. We've got to do it. We've got to find the memories, and it's like it's just like a really great moment for all the characters, but it's so goofy and so like fun. Yeah.
And then at the end, Tyon was like, they were gonna stop, and he was like, "No, we gotta see it through." But it's like, you didn't want to do it. I was like, oh, "Okay, I'm gonna do it."
And then
It was
Uni's
great.
like, Noah, can I clock? Can I clock
Oh my
in one?
God.
And I'm like,
I love that.
it's just we are
Just
men
one.
of the sea.
I
Thank
feel
you.
like I could have a 2-hour YouTube clip that is just Uni talking, and it would be my personal ASMR. So I need
I mean, you just have to ask, like.
Or now. Gio, did you have a favorite hero character?
I think my favorite was Gray, even though I don't know much about him because I didn't do his
Excellent
Ascension
choice.
quest. But I also love Ashera. I love Triton. I love Fiona. I feel like the only one I didn't like was Valdi, kind of. I just didn't connect with him that much.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing. I love Valdi.
I love Aldi too.
Love Valdi, but I friggin' hate some of his quests. Those the collecting the collectathon
Yeah.
quests that you have to do to get to his Ascension quest. Come on.
That
Stop
reminds
it.
me of some of
Stop
the worst stuff in Torna, like where you have to just
Oh,
keep giving in
God.
stuff. I'm like, oh, but yeah, Voldy's another character who has some really great interactions with Lance. Like the whole
Mhm.
big brother, little brother situation. They're so polar opposites, but they're both like very excitable people, and they both like Lance is just like, you've got to live out your dream, live out your passion. And I just love that. It's very cute, and they're both Machina type people. So yeah.
Yeah, can we get into how weird it is that all these races are still represented, but there's not really any difference between them anymore?
I love that though.
I
Yeah,
think that's
same.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the whole point, isn't it?
Mhm.
Because they're just like they're all human, apart from the Nopon, of course. 'Cause
Yeah.
Nopon just I don't know exist in a vacuum, I guess, in this world. Like I don't know whether they're like the same as consoles or
They-
whether.
I want to know what happened to them after the end of the game too, which we'll get into in a second here.
Yeah.
Like they're neutral parties according to Console X, right? And she's all like
Yes.
pissy that Riku isn't.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nopon are just interesting in the Xenoblade series as a whole. Just
Mhm.
like the fact that they are so like these worlds are Earth in the far future, kind of in a weird way, kind of right. But then to have like something so different from humans and obviously not derived from humans either, like what's up with Nopon?
Gio, what were you
Uh,
gonna say about
yeah.
Nopons?
Oh, just to respond to Izzy first, like my theory is that there was like a stuffed toy on like the satellite where Klaus pressed the
Yes.
button, and
Amazing.
that is the source of the Nopon. That's my theory. But
You
yeah.
gotta convert. I'm into it.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I wanted to ask, like, what do you think happened to Triton at the end? Because like, he was the only hero who wasn't in the ending cutscene. So, like,
Yeah.
I guess because he's a Mobius, like, he died when Zed died. I don't know.
Probably, yeah, or went back. I don't know. Maybe another hanging thread there, I suppose.
That's a good question.
Yeah, another unanswered question.
But like the heroes to me, like and for the record, I really love Alexandria. I love her character design. But I love who she is in terms of what she does with her colony, but also like her class is my favorite to play.
Mhm.
It is an absolute blast just to crit and crit and crit and crit some more and hope that my defenders can somehow get aggro back. They never do. Aggro management in this game and in general, I feel like this game from a combat perspective like does what they wanted to do to begin with, because I feel like in Xenoblade 2 like eventually like I'm all DPS, like I don't need a tank because I'm gonna have aggro every time anyway. Like if I'm using Fiora as a blade, like I'm just like doing so much damage it doesn't even matter, right? Whereas here I feel like managing aggro is important. They do a great job with integrating healers as something that you actually need to have, because there aren't as many like self-healing options that are effective as there are in like Xenoblade 2 for example. So how did you guys feel about the combat? You can compare it to the other ones if you want, or just like sort of your general feelings on the class system, combat, whatever.
Yeah, the hero system kind of helped the combat feel a bit more balanced because when you're leveling the classes, right, you kind like there's not many defender classes you can level up. And then, well, I mean, from the way I play, like I just try to level up everyone in each of the classes, and then I ran out of defenders eventually, so like I was running all healers or like all DPS. And so having a hero like Xeon around, because Ashera and Monica don't show up until like way later, like Xeon like really helped keep me alive for most of the playthrough. And I thought, well, that's kind of a problem that I don't know, like I can't live without, like I can't persist through the game without like a defender. Like I feel like constrained kind of. Yeah.
I think it's overall my favorite combat in the Xenoblade series. I do like that it actually feels like I need the healer, the DPS, the tank. I do also agree with Gio's complaints of there not being enough tanks, defenders, so it kind of messes with the balance a bit if you're trying to level up classes and you get ascension quests so late too that you don't even have the opportunity to like try and level them past 10 or something. But I find that having all those party members out at once feels good in that it doesn't feel like half your party isn't even helping. And I feel like it kind of takes a lot of the best of both worlds from 1 and 2. And it also has better disaster recovery than other game by far.
Yeah.
Like it, or even X as well. X has awful disaster recovery, but like you can actually, if there's something going wrong, you can often recover by switching, because you could switch who you're playing
Yes.
mid battle, which you could not do in the other games. So you can switch to a defender or healer or whatever to try and fix things when things start to go badly, which was something like one of my biggest wants for a Xenoblade combat system. So that's a big deal to me, and I'm very happy they did that. I do think that all the Xenoblade games run into an issue where late game it feels like you're doing a lot of the same things once you've kind of gotten into what characters and like attacks arts you like and what combos work best, and you get to the point where you can do ridiculous chain attacks that like just go forever, and you can basically like put a boss from half of their life to dead kind of thing and things like that. I think that's kind of an issue with the whole series though, so I'm not holding that against Xenoblade 3 over the other games necessarily.
My biggest issue with that is the chain attack music overtaking the regular music.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
love
God.
it.
I'm starting to chain attack at 70% on N at the beginning of chapter 6, right?
Right. Yeah.
And like the music there is phenomenal. I'm like, oh, and then like the chain attack music starts, and like on YouTube I go and I listen to the whole song, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there were like amazing parts of this song that I never heard.
Yeah, there are song transitions as well. Like the lower your health is, the music changes. The lower the boss's health is, the music changes. And I missed all of that for N.
Yeah,
for
because I'm chain
multiple
attacking.
bosses. Yeah.
As soon as I hit 70%, like I chain attack and they're dead on normal at least, which is how I played. So yeah. Anyway, that's my alone complaint about the combat system.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think again, like Izzy, it's probably my favorite combat system in the series, although there are things that I prefer in 2 to 3s. Like again, I'll bring up the defender issue. Why is there only one evasion defender? Like evasion defenders are always the best defender class in a Xeno game. Like Dunban's better than Ryan in some situations, and I always used Morag over
Play more Tiger
Tor.
Tiger and you might disagree.
Right, I agree with that part, yes, but it's just so much cooler to dodge things than hold up big metal shield. But like, yeah, there's just not enough of them. Like the weight towards like evasion classes is Zephyr, and that's it. Like I think Ashira's is meant to be, but it's more of a damage class, which, you know, it's weird to me. It makes sense, but it's also weird to me that like do more damage means more aggro. It's like, yeah, well then why don't you give the defenders more attack than the attackers then? Like, yeah. But the Ouroboros system I think is really what sets this one apart for me. Like I love turning into a big mech, and I love the fact that all the mechs look like mechs from Xenogears or Xenosaga or any other kind of mech type system. Like I remember looking at Mio's or Noah's and going, well, that's Veltol, or that's Crescens, or that's someone else. And I was like, ooh, this is all very cool. But like one of my big worries about Xenoblade 3 was like in the run up to release, like I was reading up a lot about it because that's kind of my job, and I saw so many different systems, like half translated, half like localized by like fans and stuff like that. And I was piecing it all together as I was trying to explain it in a digestible way for other people. And I'm like, there's a lot going on here. But I actually think it maybe is easier to pick back up than the other 2 games, or at least, yeah, the other 3 games, I would say. Like, there's a lot going on, but it feels way more manageable. Like the fusion arts, the talent arts, then individual arts, placements, classes, things like that. But it all just feels like a little bit more easy to jump back into, especially compared to Xenoblade 1, which like I definitely find a lot slower and very hard to pick up and return to sometimes. And 2's got like even not even more systems, about the same number of systems, but I do find that maybe a bit more of a steep curve. But don't know, maybe it's me, maybe it's just because it's pretty fresh in my head. But yeah, once it gets good. Although, can we just say like Agnian classes on the whole are so much better than Keva's classes?
Yes.
Like it's
the two
it's
best healing
weird.
classes by far are Agnian, and I want to use some of the fusion arts over here on my Signifer, and I can't.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that in the DLC they give us a great Kevis healer.
Yeah, eventually. I mean, the first one, well, this will be coming out after the first DLC, second DLC drops, isn't it? And the first hero
That's
is a
true.
defender. Yeah.
That's
so
true.
the next one's probably a healer, I would imagine.
I do think that Xenoblade 3 feels more functional earlier on than especially Xenoblade 2, where Xenoblade 2, the combat takes so long to feel functional, and like it's so slow at the start of the game, and it makes it I don't think I can ever actually fully replay Xenoblade 2. Every time I try, I'm like, this combat does not work at the start. It is actively bad to me, and it gets great, but it not at the start. 3 though, actually pretty quickly. Like there's still things that you unlock later. I wish you unlocked art canceling earlier, things like that.
Yes.
But it still feels better earlier to me, especially because of fusion arts and Ouroboros and things like that.
Yeah. I mean, like the fact that you have to like use your skill tree to get arts canceling in Ouroboros form like drove me insane.
Yeah,
Because
just gone
Ouroboros
for it.
become infinitely more powerful when you can use arts because of how slow the arts come out. Like you want to cancel every single art on Ouroboros, and that frustrated me. Like I will admit that I am a stand for Xenoblade Chronicles 2's combat. I still think it's my favorite combat in any RPG ever. But I think for most people, this is more approachable, and there is still a lot of complexity here. I just love setting up my orbs. I loved like that. Like it was almost like mathematical. The way that you had to do Xenoblade 2's combat. But this is phenomenal, and the class system I think makes it really strong.
No, I kind of agree with you because I think I'm slightly like the chain attack system more in Xenoblade 2 because of the elemental bursts.
Yeah.
But I also really love the battle system in this too.
Yeah, I think like a big reason why this is more like digestible, like Xenoblade Chronicles 3's combat, is because the tutorials are like way better, like from the start. Like they're not um they don't they're not unskippable kind of like, or like they're just delivered better, and like you can do like those drills thing that I found really helpful, like to understand the game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I will admit that I did not love the the tutorial system here.
There was
just because
so
they
many.
made me do so many, but I agree with you that it does do a great job of helping me to understand what's happening. And I guess as a veteran of the series, I'm like, okay, I get the basics of it, and I play MMOs, so like I get the basics of it. But man, sometimes like when I was like, you must assign this accessory to 7 different people.
Yeah, I was gonna say the
like,
combat
are you
tutorials.
kidding me?
The combat tutorials are fine, but it was the ones where it was like, right, you need to put put a gem on someone. Repeat this 5 times with every character, and it's like, are you kidding?
Yeah, I was devastated the first time I learned that equipment doesn't go from class to class. Because I had the accessory equipped where you could revive people without, being a healing class. But then when I changed Noah's class to something else, and then one of my party members, I was like, what, why can't I revive? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially like as I was like in my post game stuff where I'm like grinding up classes, and like I'm like noticing that when I change over, like they hold over from whatever you initially equipped to that class, and that's it. And you can do like the automatic setup in the UI, but it's usually garbage. Like, what are you thinking? Like, that's a terrible accessory for this job. What are you doing? So yeah, I mean, like, I have some small niggles with it. Like some things that I wish they had improved, but overall, I think that it is probably by and large the best combat system that Takahashi's ever done for me. Even though I prefer Xenoblade 2s, but just because like I'm a loser.
No, I'm a loser too. So.
So we are running short on time, and there are some things I want to make sure we talk about before we do. And that is the end of chapter 5 and the beginning of chapter 6 through the ending of this game, which to me I have very different opinions about those two things. So let's just sort of talk about like because the end of chapter 5, the beginning of chapter 6, which anybody who's listening at this point, oh my gosh, I hope you know what we're talking about. What are some highlights there? Like, because for me, it's all those flashback sequences.
Yep.
With Noah and Mio as N and M
and their child.
And
yep,
child,
the baby. It's the baby.
And just it's I hate to use this word, it sounds so pretentious, but it's true. Like, it's cinematic. Like, it's just so beautiful in the way that it's constructed. It is so moving. It's we don't even totally understand what's happening to us as we're playing, but it doesn't matter. Like, we don't need that context. Like, it's so beautiful from a cinematography perspective. Wow, I'm a great English person here. That I just think it's amazing, and I think that the music and the fights is incredible. The moment, I'm going to shut up now so everybody else can have some moments. I love this sequence so much that it's hard for me to stop talking about it. So what did you guys think?
It's probably the best sequence in all of Xenoblade, I think, for me. Everything from the fight at the prison up until until Shania shoots herself is like, wow, I can't believe it. Like, what was it, like 3 hours? Like a 3-hour cutscene, basically, or
Yep.
like 2 hours.
Pretty much.
With like one save moment.
I told Alana, once you start escaping the prison, make sure you have a bunch of time on your hands.
I did.
Yeah, and I was kind of sleepy playing through it, but then I perked right the hell up. Like when that song played, like a step away, and like, oh my god, I was just enraptured, and I was crying. And when Mio said my Noah, and then the way it recontextualizes after everything we find out in chapter 6, like in the beginning, and like, wow, like I was just processing all that during that time, and I was like, holy crap, it's like, I mean, I never expected that the twist, like Mio and M doing that, and then it's so heartbreaking, I guess. Like, I don't know, I don't really have any articulate thoughts to say. I loved it.
That sequence also made me inarticulate for like days, so I understand.
Yeah.
Long hair or short hair?
Oh,
go on, you say first.
Yeah, I went with short hair.
Ooh.
Am I the only one? I think so.
I went long.
Yeah.
I went long as well.
I thought I would go short because I got spoiled that Mio's hair would be long or short. I got spoiled on the choice, but I didn't know the context until I realized, oh wait, M and Mio are the same person, kind of. And I thought I was going to go short because I couldn't see it. But then once I understood like M's character philosophy and like her pain and her like, because like I think I can't remember who said it earlier, but like someone was like, well, M wanted to come back because they wanted the eternal forever or whatever. But like I don't really think M wanted to come back. Like she came back because of N, and N forced her back essentially. And like the way that she like addressed that and like transferred those thoughts onto Mio, and the way the two characters come together is just kind of incredible. Like I knew something happened in that fight sequence when M and Mio like exchanged a glance. I was like, something weird's going on here, and I wasn't quite sure. So when like Mio died, I still thought it was Mio until the very last moment, and then I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, like I have so many things I can say or would say about the sequence if I could put them coherently, because I do think like putting this alongside like some of the stuff that happens in M Walker and some of the stuff that happens in Nier Automata, I think this is among like the best sequences in any Japanese RPG I've ever played. Like, it just seems to do so many. It does so much with such a small amount of. I don't know. Like, it doesn't like tell me anything I'm surprised at. Like, it does a lot of things. It just hits me on a really good emotional level. Like, it plays to all of its strengths. It plays to like human connections. It plays to, and I brought up the baby. The bit with the child made me absolutely bawl my eyes out. Like, the minute they were in the hospital room with the baby, I was like, oh god, they're gonna take it away from me, aren't they? They're gonna do the thing again. And they did. And even the bit with Noah going to the tree, or Noah going to the tree with N, or you know what I mean. Like, there's too many persons of the same look. Whether he's like, oh, I want you to live, do this, see that. I can't remember the specifics of the conversation, but there was just something really heartwarming about it. And you could see in that moment, like, where the child was looking at his father, like, Zach said this earlier, like, we understood why, like, we would have probably made all the choices that N would have made because we want to save what we love. And in that moment, you get it. No one's done anything wrong. It's just selfishness to a degree, but also, like, yeah, it's just kind of a horrible realization, but also, like, really beautiful. And it's really beautiful the way that, like, Mio, and Noah deal with it as well. Like, it's just a phenomenal sequence.
Yes, I definitely agree. It's definitely one of I mean, it was the best sequence in the game, and just the devastation on N's face when he realized what happens was also just a little heartbreaking.
Oh god, yeah, like N's
Yeah.
reaction when he screams. Whoa, Jesus Christ.
The performance on that, incredible.
Okay, I also chose long hair. I at first I was thinking about short because, well, no, I was thinking long hair the entire time. But when Mio's like complaining about how difficult it would be to wash, I was like, oh man, I don't want her to go through that. But she looks so pretty with long hair, so I chose long hair.
It was such a nice conversation. It wasn't like, it was a combination of like, oh, this is M's legacy, but also like, damn, this is a pain in the backside to like look after.
Yeah, that's why I picked short hair. Like, I was like, oh, I don't want Mio to have to do stuff so that she can sit on the toilet or something. Like,
Oh my god.
She does say that.
yeah, she does
mentions
say that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll give you short hair.
I do wish we could have kept M's outfit if we wanted as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know, right? Like, I remember
Probably
you
my-
asked me, and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
no."
Yeah, it was one of my favorite iterations of like the Cosmos-esque like suit,
Yeah.
I think, for sure.
For me, unfortunately, after this moment, and you guys covered everything that I would have said about that moment, and I think it's like a top 3 moment in RPGs, period. Like, we're talking like ending of Nier Automata. It belongs in that conversation for me. I think the game kind of falls apart in a lot of ways after this. And not like in a way that I think, obviously I reviewed it. I gave the game a 96, which is like a very high score. Not in a way that I think ruins what came before, but I think that it struggles mightily with pacing after this.
Yeah.
Miyabi's, so we get Mio's side story and we get Noah's side story, right? And they're both about people who they cared about when they were alive. Now they're not. And then like Miyabi's just like, we do it, and like, oh, now Miyabi's here. Like, there's no more conversation about it. The end. And even Miyabi's side stories or her Ascension quest is about like,
oh god, yeah,
cooking, which I liked, but there's so much more to explore there. And then we get Chris in chapter 7, which I think is maybe the weakest sequence in the game for me, because Chris is introduced very early. And I'm like, oh, this is like a fascinating character. And like, they're not there for like 4.5 chapters. Oh, now Chris is back. Now I should like have emotional investment in this, and I don't.
Well, the thing is, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead. I'm done. You're good.
I mean, the problem I also had was like Noah, when he learned found out that he was back, he kind of had almost no reaction to it.
Yeah.
At all. So I was like, well, if you're not feeling emotionally invested in this, I'm not. I don't
Right.
know. It's just,
And it's also like the third instance of a character coming back as a console member, right? Like, it's like you've had Yorin, And then you've had
Mhm.
Shania, who, you know, is part of like Senna's side story. You find out is
Mhm.
also a console member. N and M are also important console members who are technically other characters. And then Chris, who maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't even think I knew Chris's name until this side story. Like, I don't think it comes up until chapter 7.
I think we heard it earlier, but I
Okay.
could be wrong.
Might have done, yeah, but it's just like such in passing. Whereas at least Miyabi's got like a presence through like Mio and like her character, and she brings her up, and Senna and her talk about her, and they reminisce about her occasionally. But like Chris is just like rarely brought up, and
Yeah,
then like
yeah.
yeah, it's just like, and then Chris is actually like not totally evil in that he's trying to like test you or do something, and I'm just like, dude, like no, like you've been like I don't. Yeah, it was incredibly frustrating because like I really wanted to know more about Chris in general because they showed him in a couple of flashback sequences, and I'm sure they could have done something really interesting with that whole relationship, but instead they just decide to use the same old redone. Oh, it's another console member. There's 25 of them, but yeah.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that sequence being possibly the weakest in the game, but I will say I kind of took Noah's reaction and everything to it as him basically being like, "Yeah, this is just what was going to happen. I'm not even surprised." Like
Potentially,
this,
yeah.
it was all leading. Like we've seen what happens with the console, how they work. Eh.
Ju, I'm pretty sure you liked this sequence more than most of us. What did you think of the end of 6 through 7? And before the end, we'll get to the end in a minute here.
I didn't mind it as much. I mean, I agree with you. I would agree with all of you that Chris, that whole thing didn't need to be there. I don't even think Miyabi needed to be there. I don't think Mio or Noah needed necessarily to have like their own, like the side stories had to be mandatory. I only liked, but I like just going to the Cloud Keep. Basically, I when I think of Chapter 6, I remember
Yeah,
seeing Nia and
for sure.
resolving the Yoran storyline. I love that, and
Mhm.
yeah,
I love the characterization of Nia too. How
Yeah.
she's like all trying to be prim and proper, and then
yeah,
she gets into her Welsh nonsense, and I'm like,
Oh,
oh, there's the Nia I know
I
and
I,
love
I
love.
it.
did love.
And
Yeah.
how your
so-
whole party too does like thinks can't not think of her as the queen, so most of them just take her as like, oh, she knows way more than us and totally knows what's going on, while she's like, what's happening?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, the stuff in the Cloud Keep and like the snowy area of Asia, is really good.
yeah,
And I think the stuff with the colony there, when you find out about like the purple stuff, is interesting, but they don't really like it. Already been present once or twice before, and they don't really linger on it for very long. So I'm like, oh, you've been hiding this in the back, and now you bring it out, and now it's not irrelevant anymore either. Like you're like, oh, here's the concept, done, sorted, solved. No, it's not solved. You just like put it in front of me, and then like threw it to one side for a bit. But yeah, the stuff with like bringing people back to life, and also like you bring back pretty much everybody to life at that point, like including Mwamba, who dies in the opening chapter and is then in the city and doesn't really have any, you know, there's no like meaningful like conversation or reconciliation the same way that you have with like Kamaravi or Ethel. Although I have problems with that too. But
I
yeah.
had no problems with it because I got to do that hero quest in about 30 seconds.
Oh yeah.
And that was amazing.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with that. And again, Seraph is one of my favorite classes, as is Flash Fencer actually. But
I
yeah.
think there could have been something really interesting there with bringing those people back to life, but them
Yeah.
not having their full memories. There could have been a lot more than there was. And I think they hinted at it a bit. And like
Yeah.
when you go talk to Wamba in like the city and he's like very confused and like that kind of thing, like there could have been something very interesting there and it just never really happened.
I was just gonna say because I'm guessing something happens with Ethel because when I saw
Oh,
her, she was
yeah.
a kid, and in the ending sequence, she was an adult. I'm like, I didn't do her quest, so I'm like, oh, I
Oh,
guess I
wow.
missed something.
If you go back to that colony with Kamaravi, like the
Uh-huh.
one that Kamaravi comes from, like literally in a minute,
Yeah.
you will have done both Kamaravi and Ethel's ascension quest,
Oh,
and
okay.
also have Ethel back available as a hero to you.
Well, I should have done that.
It'll take you 30 seconds. I'm not kidding.
You do have to have rank 10 in both of their classes, but that's
Oh.
not a very big
I'm sure you do at
ask.
this
Oh,
point,
yeah, I do.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah, I didn't even realize that she wouldn't appear as a child in that end sequence
No.
if you hadn't done a Ascension quest.
No,
Well,
she
there
was
you
an
go.
adult. I was like,
They just assumed.
okay, all right.
That's one of the like hero quests that's not even signposted though, is it? It's just a question mark in a
No, it's not
Yeah.
even a question mark. You literally just have to walk into that pod
Yeah.
room,
Okay.
and it just happens
There
like
you go.
immediately, and it's like
Right.
again a very quick side quest.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Yeah. So the ending. Um, I think that a lot of what leads up to the ending is weak. I think that there's a lot of potential there, whereas the ending itself, I think, is, let's say, troubling. But I didn't hate it. There are lots of great moments in the ending. There are lots of things I liked about the ending. But overall, like, Origin as a dungeon is so samey and so long. And I'm sure Tyler definitely feels this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so long. And I'm like, oh, look, I gained a lot of levels there because I've been over leveled for the whole game, and I finally got to some enemies that I was not
Yeah.
over leveled for. That was nice. But overall, my feelings on the ending are meh.
Yeah. Stuff with N and M is the best part of it. Again, like the fight with N when you free Melia is good. When N and M join up with N joins up with Noah is really good. And the bit where they like at the end go away with the rest of the consoles and with Zed is is really good. But Origin reminds me of like the final dungeon of Xenogears in many ways, and the sameness of it and the windiness of it. But also like there are so many things that are never made clear about Origin. Like, what is Origin? Like, just some big supercomputer, essentially, that Tora built, can we just say? Like, Tora of Xenoblade 2 built.
Look, he built the best blade in Xenoblade
No,
2
no.
if you built her right.
No. I'm just, like, quite surprised. I'm not surprised, and I'm not criticizing. I don't like Tora, but, like, cool. That's a cool little reference, but it's also just like, they try and explain it, and I get it. It's like this place where it stores like all the original memories and stuff like that. But also it's
the
just
Lifehold.
like, yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much. But like, yeah, it's just kind of there. And then the game dances around this question, like, why are we going to Origin? So like the whole goal of the game is to go to the city. Then when they get to the city, they find out like, they need to stop Mobius. But then it's like this decision, like, go to find Queen Nia, save her, get her out, things like that. And then Nia gives them this job, and she's like, you've got to make this choice. And like, we've already spoken a little bit about choice generally throughout the game and throughout the story, and they have to make this decision what to do at the end. Actually, I suppose before I jump ahead of that, ahead of the final boss, we should probably talk about the final boss and the whole sequence, which is rubbish.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Zed is a terrible villain, I think, and the
Yes.
idea that he is supposed to be the collective unconsciousness, and the idea that he is like, again, the representation of like, Mobius is in everybody, is like, no, you're so like smarmy and stuck up and just kind of appear very last minute that I really fail to care about anything that you really want. His interactions with N are interesting, like the whole I do really like the way that they present a lot of the game through like those theater sequences where they're all in the cinema and they show things through like old timey wimey cameras and stuff like that. I think that's really fun, very very Xeno of the game, and very much reminded me of like the Gall Ministry and stuff like that. But like, yeah, like Zed as a villain is pretty rubbish, I think.
Honestly, sorry to cut you off.
No, go on. I am done.
But I feel like this, besides a few villains, in Shania, and Yorin, I feel like this is probably the weakest villains of any Xeno game, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
it's just
100%. Yeah, I like what they were trying to do with the consoles. I like the fact that they're apparent in almost every single hero quest. I think that's really cool. Like, it's like they're not just a threat to the main party. Like, you actually get to see the consequences of how they like manage the colonies and things like that. But they do come across as very cartoony or comic booky, I think, as someone said earlier. And it really does diminish them as like these large over the top villains. And you know, there are some people like that. Like Metal Face is very over the top in Xenoblade 1, but he also does some pretty horrible things, and there's a real motivation, as in like he killed your childhood best friend in front of you. Like it's a pretty big driver, whereas like all of these are just like, yeah, not great apart from Eminem.
I think Console D is supposed to be the metal face of this game, and he kind of doesn't really work in that role. Like they reveal stuff about him too late, and it also doesn't really connect to much other than Uni, so it kind of just doesn't really work.
Right. And it doesn't even like fully connect to her, does it? Like he killed her, but like the stuff that he's like known for,
he's just a serial killer.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. And also like with X, like I wanted to learn more about X, because I remember there was a conversation that Mio was saying about talking about the consoles and how all the consoles used to be like human except for Z and X, and then there was that boss fight.
Y as well.
Yeah, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. And I was like, what? I wanted to know more about them, and then if you beat X and the boss fight at the end, she doesn't actually disappear. She just kind of stays there.
Yeah.
Like what?
Almost like there's supposed to be a cutscene or something where she talks to you.
Yeah.
I like stood there after I can't remember if it was killing X or Y, whichever one comes first. I stood there expecting for a cutscene to go off, and it didn't. And I was like, wait, what?
And Y disappeared. Like, so I'm like, okay, but then X would just, her body just stayed there, and I just like took a screenshot of Lance standing beside her, just take a picture, say cheese. Hey. And I was like, what's going on with this? I don't know.
Sounds like a glitch, because in my game she disappeared after.
Oh, really?
Oh,
interesting.
Oh,
yeah. Like she screams like, "I don't want to die," and then she disappears.
She said that, but yeah, her body was just standing there. Okay, that might have been a glitch.
Yeah, for me, all of Origin kind of like is Xenoblade is not a dungeon game. It doesn't work as a game where there's dungeons to me, right? Like dungeons just like there's not the kind of discovery and stuff that makes a dungeon interesting. Like you don't get cool treasures in Xenoblade games where you're like, yes, I got that treasure. Like sometimes you get a cool accessory or something, but it just doesn't work to me in that way. There's no reason for me to want to go off these side paths and explore. It's like, please get me to the end, so I'm just following the path to the end, and I'm just seeing the same stuff over and over again. So that's my complaints with Origin.
Yeah, it's a good point, actually. It should just be like a whole new area or something that's like an open field with just like one room. Something like the Cloud Keep at Asia would have been a good idea, like a equivalent of like the Upper Asia region, like not a massive area, and then with just like this very small building that's just like, oh, this is the end. I know it's the end. Yeah.
I wish. And then for the actual final boss fight, my favorite part of it is one when all the heroes start joining you. I like that sequence, just getting a ton of heroes come in. And also Melia and Nia. I know it makes no sense that their castles can turn into mechas, but
it was
super
amazing.
Sick.
Yes, so amazing.
It was amazing. That was really good, yeah. Yeah, that sequence was great, but like the beginning bit, and I got like the point of it, like where you're fighting Zed on the theater stage.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was like you were not doing any damage, and it was like a storytelling thematic thing, but also I was just like,
which you can't,
like so long. This is the longest part of the fight. Like, at least if you're gonna like die, if you're gonna like let me die and have to make me restart from somewhere, make it after that first bit, not the whole damn thing.
Yeah, and playing that a second time, I found out that those little cutscenes there aren't skippable. So
they are not skippable, correct?
Yes! Thank you. I needed that.
Right?
It's so long.
I know, right?
It is.
That's why I was saying that was. Yeah, that's why I was saying that was the longest sequence. Like, I didn't mind the rest of it, but yeah.
That's another reason why I'm running on 2 hours of sleep today.
Wait, so how many times did you die, Tyler?
Just the once, but it was enough to waste another hour.
Sequence is like 45 minutes, I think.
So before we talk about the final sequence after the final boss, and the final boss is very long and tries to repeat things that, like, I don't know, I've done in 14 before, and it was like Final
Right.
Fantasy 14, and it was
Yeah.
like, oh, like I did this in Endsinger, that was awesome.
Right, yeah.
This sucks here.
Right.
But Gio, I know that you're more positive on this than we are, and please make us happier about this ending.
Yeah. I did the pro gamer move of using up all my bonus XP that I'd never used, like from the campfire, and so I went from like level 69 to 81, and so I just breezed through it. I don't know what happened.
I did the same.
Yeah. So like it wasn't that bad for me. Like none of the, I mean, the enemies from Origin were like noticing me, like I was catching their aggro, but I just ran past them and I barely fought anyone. And so it was just like a whole run through
This
the
is
corridor.
the smart way to do Origin for the
Right.
record.
I did the exact same thing as you.
Yeah. See, Izzy and I are smart.
I'm sorry, I'm dumb.
I'm
Me
just
This,
too.
kidding.
this is
don't
probably
worry.
why I'm also slightly more positive on it.
Yeah, I'm just kidding though. But I remember the world tree of like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 being also like a giant slog, and so that's probably why I did it this way.
Yeah, I should have
And
remembered.
yeah, like actually, like about Zed, like I don't hate Zed, or like, I don't dislike the concept of Zed just being a concept. Like it's like he's like a force of nature, and it kind of helps to highlight Noah and the main crew more in a way. Like, but now that you guys mentioned it, I think I would have preferred if like Anne was the final boss. Then
Mhm.
I loved that fight more than I loved Zed. Um, yeah, I think if I played through the game again, I think I'd feel a bit less positive on the whole ending sequence.
I mean, and I am sincerely happy that you liked it. I mean, because for me, it's like they have established the themes of this game long before the ending. And then, like, as we're in the final boss sequence, like, I felt like I heard them say the same lines in some cases at least like 8 damn times. And I'm like, all right, look, yo, I get it. All right. Like, I teach high school students, they don't understand themes when I teach them a story. Cool. But like, as so many JRPGs do, they treat me like a moron. I was so frustrated with the ending, and it doesn't ruin it for me. Like, I actually like everything after the boss better, even though we'll talk about that in a second here. But like, I was like, oh my gosh, I get it. And I wanted to invest in it because I cared about these characters, and I totally understand why somebody would like it, because like it's so character centric, and I respect that. But like, it doesn't treat me like I'm a person who can read, in my opinion. And that was what was so frustrating to me about this ending, where they were just like constantly shouting the same garbage over and over again.
I'd be
Yeah.
curious to know like what people who didn't do like any or many side quests thought of it, because I feel like because I'd done so many side quests by this point, like I'd already figured out what the theme was way before it. Like, you know, all of these colonies that you're like changing and saving, and it's like, oh, you're gonna like make a difference in the world, and then that's essentially what they're trying to do. But in fact, you know, despite this game being heavily about choice and about allowing people the choice, you make a choice for the world for sure. But there doesn't. It's such a binary choice that Noah and the team make.
Yeah.
That it makes the whole theme redundant to me to a degree. Like, it's like the choice is you want to split the world in back to how it was. That's it. And you don't want to like explore the possibility that like there might be a way to like lengthen your lives. There might be a way to like save the world without losing the memories or stuff like that. Like, there's no like entertaining of it. I don't, and that's like, you know, I like the bittersweetness of the actual ending sequence. Like, I obviously cried when like Noah and Mio actually like kissed and like ran and, you know, the running at each other and everything like that was so beautiful.
Beautiful,
But
yes.
but like it was like you're taking away so many of the important parts of the game that it's really frustrating to watch unfold. Like, and it sort of almost comes out of nowhere. Like, nobody ever directly says you need to break the world in two. Like, they just say like it's gonna change things a lot. Like Nia like dances around it, but I'm like, I know what the plan is. I know what you're doing, and it's a stupid idea. But I get it. It's.
I mean, it's interesting because Nia, as you discovered Alana recently, in the post game in her Ascension quest, literally says that's what you're going to
Yeah.
do. And I, honestly, like I don't have so much of a problem with it because, and I think a lot of the criticisms of the ending are like, it makes all the work that you have done up to now meaningless because the world's just going to split anyway. So who cares if Colony 4 is, more together? Who cares if Colony 0 understands how to function? Because like they're all going to forget it anyway. Because they're all going to get tossed back into their initial world. This was all just kind of a dream, not really. I don't know, they never make that 100% clear. But I also think that for me, it's like, in a lot of ways, like death makes everything a dream, right? Like,
Yeah.
like none of this really matters. Like this podcast right now is kind of irrelevant because eventually no one will have listened to it and we will never remember it because we'll be dead. But it still matters because it's happening right now.
Yeah.
And it matters because we're all here and because we're all talking about a game that we at least mostly liked, right? And so I think that it highlights that, but it also doesn't really deal with the consequences of why that would be the case.
Yeah.
And I felt like my biggest issue with it is like DLC clearly is coming.
Mhm.
We know it's coming. Y'all are going to have to pay for it if you want to see how this ends. And Xenoblade 2 did not do that.
Right,
Not at
yeah.
all.
I think that's my bigger problem as well. Like, I don't mind, again, like, I think the point that you make about, like, it all feeling like it's worthless. Like, yeah, that's part of life. I also just didn't feel like any of it was worthless, like you were saying. Like, I did all of those side quests and I felt like I got tons out of the game and tons out of it. And I think part of the reason why I absolutely adore Xenoblade 3 and I think it's my favorite Xeno game is because of all of that extra stuff. Like, just talking about it on that level, not even like a philosophical, personal level kind of thing. But like, also to back up the point that you were making, like, it's also never going to matter anyway, because imagine if you never make a change in that world and you were saving all of those colonies and doing all the work. They're all going to die at 10 years old anyway, apparently, in a homecoming or whatever. I don't know how it would change given the consoles. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, everyone's going to die, and there's like there's no right answer just between those two binary choices. But again, those are the only two options apparently in this situation. Like, you just leave things as they are, or you do it. Like, I get it though; it's a difficult situation, and I think it was an interesting way of doing it. And I was definitely annoyed about it initially, and I've called on it a little bit, but I do still wish that they maybe would have gone like, oh, is there no one even asked the question like, can we not live beyond the 10 years? Like, nobody thinks to question it. Like, how do we become these people in the city? But like, yeah, I think the obvious like gating content behind DLC is pretty frustrating. Like, stuff that's just going to tie stuff up, like the founders, the people who are in the statues, the, Consul A, who we found out just before this podcast doesn't appear in this game. What's Poppy doing here? Why is Poppy here? Like, and why does the Monado still sort of exist? And why has Rex got 3 children? And is Mio actually Nia's like great granddaughter or whatever or something? Like, there are so many
I
hanging
think she's
threads.
just Nia's daughter.
Yeah.
Really, that's interesting
Yeah.
because like. Oh, I guess if it's the same person reincarnating
Mhm.
over and over, then yeah, that would make sense.
I think she's the baby that appears in that photo with Giga Chad Rex.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm glad you turned out like a little bit more of a brighter spark than Rex than Neo. But no offense, Rex. I understand he's 15. Don't worry. And he's very optimistic and lovely. But yeah, like, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. Like, I can't remember the last time a game put like potentially essential story stuff, which we don't know. Like, we're just speculating at this point.
Yeah.
Potentially essential story stuff behind DLC.
Dragon Age Inquisition.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
Just bringing one up. Yeah, I mean, with the ending, there's some things like the fact Mia specifically says "see you all soon" when she's looking at that photo makes me think that the worlds colliding happened much earlier than I initially thought it did. and people have just been reliving, which is also why I think Mio is Nia's daughter, because I think it happened while all those characters were still alive. So the split world, I assume, is going to have a Shulk, it's going to have Rex, they'll be back and alive. And then the fact that Noah remembers Mio's song makes me think that even if you take the fact that everyone forgets, obviously everyone doesn't fully forget. So
Yeah.
it's not even fully meaningless in that respect, in that these people might remember things. They might have dreams or memories that change how they live their lives going forward and how their worlds work. Perhaps war will become less of an obvious thing because they'll have these dread memories of war that they don't remember fighting in and like dying and stuff. So that kind of thing. I'm very. I want the DLC to go forward, but it would kind of suck to have to pay to see the story going forward for just like a conclusion-y kind of thing. But I also am so curious about where it leaves the world and what happens next. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, it's that tentative nature of it. Like I think my brain just assumed that we would find out what happens in the DLC, and so maybe that's why I wasn't really upset about the ending, but I'm also kind of worried that they're not gonna go in that direction. And it's just gonna be a straight up like prequel of like what happened
my
to the
money's on
founders and stuff.
Yeah, that's what my money's on. It's going to be about the founders.
I just can't see what would actually be interesting about them other than their identities. Like
Mhm.
going way back in time to just be like, okay, Ouroboros exists. I guess maybe we'll learn more about what it is and that kind of thing. But like, there's no new villains we can fight. We already killed all the councils except for A. Like, or we just, and the DLC is supposed to be as big as Torna or Future Connected. So I feel like it has to have more to it. I just can't see the founders carrying that. But like, obviously, I don't know enough to say that for sure. It just doesn't feel like it could to me.
If it could make me care about the consoles, then okay, I'll
Console
give it a
A,
try.
the DLC, you've heard it here, folks, is going to be about how Alvis becomes Riku. That's what it's going to be about.
And the main character you play as is going to be Council D, and you're going to be like, oh, he became a serial killer because of these very sad reasons.
Oh my god.
I think I would genuinely ask for a refund if that happened.
Challenge mode, not worth it. Anybody else have any other thoughts on the ending they want to share real quick before we wrap up here?
I just want to express the artfulness of the final sequence of like them running after each other, and then the worlds are like shifting
that's
away.
the best part of it.
It was like it reminds me of like a Kimi no Nawa or like a Makoto Shinkai movie or something. I don't know why. Like, I remember.
Totally. I see it.
Yeah. And the music, I mean, that song is like an important reason of why people cry, and like it's just so effective at making you cry.
We didn't even talk about the music, but it's so damn good.
Oh, yeah. Amazing.
That's for Rhythm Counter.
Go ahead.
No, just the future of this series.
Right.
I'm so excited for with how good they're getting at everything. This character writing, the cinematography, there's just so much they keep building on. Like, Monolithsoft is amazing.
That's the truth. So one last question before we wrap up. Where do you place this in the Xeno series? In terms of Xenoblade itself or the Xeno series at large? Where do you place it? Do you think it's better or worse? Everybody wants to hear this part, so that's why I'm asking.
Right now, being honest, I think it's my favorite Xeno or Blade ever. Like, even though I've just like completely ripped apart the ending to a degree, I think there is so much. I've written elsewhere, but like I feel like Xenoblade 3 is like a real big lessons learned in so many different ways on Xenogears and Xenoblade at least, and I can't vouch for Saga because I haven't played it, but like there are so many little things that are so much more streamlined in this, and other things that, like, you know, even though this is like it's my biggest playtime so far, it's like 160 hours almost. Like I just adore what it does. It's got the best characters. I think it all feels thematically coherent. until that last sequence. And I wish, but like one thing I have to like commend Takahashi is I always have like a problem with a Xeno game in some way. Like people don't like Disc 2 of Xenogears because it's rushed, and people don't like get like the middle of Xenoblade is a bit like of a slog, and like I think personally Xenoblade 2 only gets really, really, really good in chapter 7 when it's just phenomenal all the way there. Like I always and Xenoblade X as well, I guess, like their main story. Couldn't tell you anything about it. Side quests, brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But like all the characters, apart from Elma and Lynn, who are both great. Oh, unfortunately I do remember Tatsu as well, but for all the wrong reasons. But like
Is that
yeah,
because you ate him?
I mean, like, he's the big potato man thing. That's the running joke, right? Just, we're gonna eat you. But yeah, I think it's gonna depend on what the DLC does ultimately. Before this, Gears was my favorite Xeno. The original Blade was probably my favorite Xenoblade. But like, yeah, this is like an all timer for me, I think, even with the ending as it is now. I wish the ending had been slightly better, but ultimately it didn't destroy everything that I loved that came before it. And yeah, I just think it's pretty fantastic overall.
Yeah, I mean, I have the same opinion as Alana. I think it's an all-timer. Like, I haven't played Xenogears or Xenosaga, so I'm only comparing it to the mainline Xenoblades, and it's easily my favorite. I think it's easy for me to say that. Uh, it just touched me in a way that one or two never did, and even in terms of like just the greater like JRPG like pantheon, I think it's pretty significant. Like in terms of like what it achieves, like in terms of like storytelling and just being the sheer amount of stuff there is to do and all that. I think it's pretty incredible, and yeah, it rivals some of my favorites ever, like Suikoden or like Final Fantasy 7 or something like that.
So yeah, for me, I would say it's tough for me to rank games in this series because I love them all dearly.
Mhm.
I would say 3 has a good chance of being my favorite in the Blade series. The only competition there for me is X, and that's because mechas. I also just love
Mm.
that world. I love that world a lot. It's gorgeous, and the music, and
Oh yeah.
there's a lot to love there. But 3 might win on sheer breadth of content and character development and just characters, and I like the combat more than any of the other Xenoblade games. As far as the greater series, I have a major soft spot for Xenosaga. So Xenosaga 3, Episode 3, is one of my favorite games of all time. I still consider it my favorite Xeno game. However, I haven't played it in a while, and I think I need to go and do that to... I mean, part of it is because it's similar reason to how much I like Xenoblade 3 is it builds off the backs of Xenoblade 1 and 2, also all prior Xeno games, but specifically that. And Xenosaga is a series, right? So it builds up all these characters over across 3 games, builds up a world. It's something special, I think, and 3 does a very good job of tying it all together in the end, despite all the issues with its development and the fact that it was supposed to be more games and all that stuff. Xenogears also wonderful. Probably rank it like similar to 3, maybe. So like if we're top 3, it's probably Xenosaga Episode 3, and then like a tie between Xenoblade 3 and Xenogears, and then like Xenoblade X is floating around there being awesome mechas. And it as I'm not sure. So in the grand scheme of Monolithsoft games,
Oh
I
yeah.
think I might actually like Baten Kaitos Origins more than any of the Xeno games.
Yes.
That's such a good game.
It is gorgeous, beautiful, amazing, everything good. People should play it. I just wanted to shout out to it because we're talking about Monolithsoft. But so there's my rankings.
I think I need to marinate on Xenoblade 3 a little bit since it's so fresh for me. I mean, I definitely enjoyed my over 140 hours in it, and I'm definitely gonna play a lot more because I need to do a lot of quests that you guys have brought up. And it definitely has, I think, out of all the Xeno games, there's just like the chemistry between all the party members is probably the best, because even in games like Xenogears, you'll have like Rico or Maria that are just, after their story beats, they're just kind of there. But Xenoblade 3, I just feel like there's just the camaraderie and the cohesion among the party is the best. But of course, kind of like Izzy, I still have a big old soft spot for Xenosaga, so I don't know how it ranks in comparison to that at the moment. So I'm giving a very lame and coward answer of yes, I need to sit on this more. But
It's all good. You finished it what as of this recording 8 hours ago, so I understand. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's tough for me between 2 and 3. It's been so long since I've played Xenogears that I can't even like really honestly bring it into the conversation. But 2, I think it does not have quite as high highs, but it ends so much stronger. And when you even talk about the fact that Zanza is nowhere to be found in Xenoblade 3, or any of that, and I think that hurts Xenoblade 3 a lot. I think the combat is stronger for me personally in Xenoblade 2. I like the music better in Xenoblade 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But damn, it's hard. Honestly, like Xenoblade 1 through 3 are all like 93 to 96 if I'm scoring on them on an RPG fan scale, which means they're all amazing. And you should play all of them, and they're all incredible games, and they all do different things really well. We didn't talk about the areas or the zones at all, which is too bad. But I love the scope of the zones here, but they definitely lack the beauty of the zones in Xenoblade 1. And so I would probably give it to Xenoblade 3 just by an inch, but it's a tough one. But anyway, needless to say, Xenoblade, good. Xeno, good. Takahashi, very good. Please make more games. And thank you all so much before I go into the housekeeping for this conversation. It was a long podcast. Slow-C is going to be so mad at me. I'm editing it though, so he can't be so mad at me. But I thought that we covered so much ground. We talked about so many amazing things. You guys all had amazing things to say. I had a blast recording this podcast, so thank you so much for joining me.
For having me.
Of course.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
So coming up to housekeeping. So let's talk about what's coming up soon. First of all, there's more Xeno coming soon. But before we get to that, next week we're going to have an episode about the Muppets, and different Muppets cast as RPG characters. I have no idea what that's going to look like. I want to know what it's going to look like, though. But at the end of this month, and actually the staff doesn't know this at the time of recording, Xenosaga Episode 1 will be our game journal for this month, for December. So we'll have 2 episodes on Xenosaga Episode 1. I am super jacked to dive into Xenosaga for the first time. I've got it downloaded on something. I'm not emulating, I promise. And also at the beginning of next month, we're going to bring back one of our draft episodes. And we're going to have a draft episode for different characters from the Xeno series, similar to our Dragon Quest or Xeno or our Suikoden ones that we've done before. So we're going to have a draft episode. So if you have any feedback for us, the best place is to email retro@rpgfan.com. You can also hit up Slow-C on Twitter, which is at the Real Monsoon, if I'm not mistaken. You can also comment on our Facebook page, our Twitter. You can check out our Discord. We have something streaming almost every day on Twitch, and we also have some videos on YouTube. We also have 2 other fine podcasts. Random Encounter, which is about random things, mostly current events. It's every 2 weeks, hosted by John O'Logan. And then the other week, every 2 weeks, we have Rhythm Encounter, which is all about RPG music, and is usually hosted by Mike Salvato. You can also review RPG Fan you can review Retro Encounter on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, whatever works for you. We love feedback. But before we leave, let's talk about how you can reach the individual panelists, starting with you, Alana.
So you can find me on Twitter at Alana Hagues. So if you want to come talk to me about things, then please do. Although I'm on there a lot less often than normal.
And Gio, how can people get in touch with you?
You can find me on Twitter at Tenbi Star, TENBI Star. I don't tweet that much, and if I do, it's mostly about politics. So so you better.
No problem with that.
Yeah.
And Izzy, how can we get in touch with you?
I don't really do social media, so
Good for
if
you.
you want to get in touch with me, you could go through RPG Fan on Twitter or Facebook or whatever.
Okay. And Tyler, how can we get in touch with you?
You can contact me on Twitter at Cosmos Chaos, and yes, that's a Xenosaga reference.
Good for you. And the best ways to get in touch with me, because my social media is all locked down, is you can email me at rpg or zachw at rpgfan.com, or you can find me on our Discord at zachw. And that's it for today. I hope you guys had a sparking good time listening to this episode. And next time, maybe you can listen to the Xeno Saga episode and perhaps be in for something a bit meatier.
Wow.
Thank you, everybody. Good night and good luck.